Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of what if Deku became the Underground's master Datastream? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Izuku was so excited. His quirk came in and it was so pretty. There were so many colors and sparks. There was red and blue and purple and green and yellow and white and orange. They were going like whoosh and zip and buzz. They were everywhere and nowhere, all at the same time. The coolest part was that no one else could see it. This was something that was just Izuku's. But, well, since no one else could see it, no one could understand what he meant, but that's okay because he knows what he's saying. It's super cool. It's the best quirk ever. Well, almost the best quirk ever. Kaken's quirk is still the best. He'll be the best hero ever. But Izuku's quirk is super awesome too. He did wish someone could understand what he saw though. These tests were super scary. He could see the yellow and orange zips that kept SRNG around as the machine he was in kept making really loud clunking sounds and he was supposed to stay really still. The doctor called it a kitty scan? Or something like that. It was supposed to make a picture of his brain, but Izuku was too busy trying to keep his tears from falling to really think about what the kitty scan was doing. When the machine finally stopped making noise, Izuku quickly rubbed the tears away, pretending he wasn't about to cry. Soon after Izuku got out of the machine and was sitting across from the doctor with his mom next to him, the doctor started talking. Izuku didn't really know what he was talking about for the most part, but it seemed that his brain was what his quirk was. Does that mean my quirk is that I'm smart? Izuku couldn't help but exclaim out. But wait, the zaps and buzzes and whooshes don't fit that. No, Izuku, that's not what your quirk is, the doctor laughed. While I don't doubt you are an extremely smart kid, your quirk is just that your brain has a mutation. Because of this, you may very well have enhanced intelligence though. Oh, Izuku said, still excited that he was going to be super smart, but disappointed he hadn't figured out his quirk. So what is my quirk? Well, I'm not too sure what it is exactly, but the area of your brain that is mutated has to do with your signal receivers, such as the neurons in your brain. It seems the synaptic connections are extra sensitive. While it is a possibility that you will be able to control and manipulate electromagnetic signals, it is much more likely a weak electricity quirk. The area of your brain that is most altered is the same as is often seen in those with electrical quirks. It seems, however, that all you are able to do is simply see the signals for now. This doctor was using big words and Izuku didn't know what most of it meant. So my quirk is being able to see the whooshes, zips, and buzzes? He tried to confirm. The doctor just looked at Izuku for a moment, finding his childish way of speaking endearing. For now, yes, it would seem so. Inko got her purse and took Izuku's hand. Thank you, doctor, she said as she stood up. If I have any more questions, I'll reach out to your office. She lightly tugged Izuku's tiny hand. Let's go, Izuku. They left, heading back to the car. Izuku kept quiet for the drive home, keeping himself content in watching all of the colors of the whooshes as they drove past. Inko was furious. More than that, she was positively livid. She had thought she would never have to be reminded of that BSRD who called himself her father, but now here she was, with a child with a filthy brain mutation just like him. And of course he was seeing things. Her father could see emotions, so why shouldn't her son be able to see things as well? She turned the key in the lock of the apartment door angrily, but not rough enough for her son to notice her fury. He was still acting like a happy idiot, looking at the whooshes, as he called it. Hisashi, we're home, she announced to her husband when she could hear him in the kitchen. Welcome home, Inko. How was the appointment? Hisashi asked. Izuku, please go to your room, Inko said. She wants to tell her husband about the appointment, but she's sure she won't be able to keep the anger out of her voice for long if she does. Okay, mommy. Izuku was quick to comply. He could probably tell that there was about to be an argument. The kid could always tell. Once she heard the door to her son's room close, she turned to her husband and said, he has a FING mutation quirk. Hisashi was silent as he took in this information. How? Was the only thing he asked, a hint of disgust in his voice. My worthless father had a brain mutation quirk, and it seems so does Izuku. I thought I would never have to think of that BSRD again, but here he is. Inko's fists were clenched so tightly she could feel her nails digging into her palms. What can Izuku do? That's the thing, Inko sighed. We don't know. The doctor said that he thinks Izuku can see electricity. It's a very minor electrical quirk, but it also doesn't seem as though he can actually manipulate it. He can just see it. So he's useless. Hisashi confirmed. His expression darkened when Inko only nodded. This isn't what I signed up for. I wanted a kid who could control and manipulate fire. I wanted a kid who could do that too. Why else do you think I married you? Inko's voice was starting to get loud and she took a deep breath to calm herself down. That lasted all of 3 seconds, because Hisashi turned away and started to their bedroom. If that's all you wanted with me, then we're through. Hisashi had been thinking of leaving for a while, and now with his son having the same type of quirk as his wife's father, there was no way he was going to bother trying to work things out. Disgusting mutant quirks. Izuku was cowering under his bed. Mommy and Daddy were yelling again. They were usually calm around him, but when he wasn't there they would sometimes yell, scream, and even once Daddy set the couch on fire when he was yelling. He heard the front door slam shut, followed by what sounded like a vase hitting the door, the sounds of the shattered glass reaching Izuku in his room. There were very few things Aizawa Shota loved more than sleep. In fact, he could really only think of 3 things: coffee, cream, and sugar. Well, maybe 4 things. Actual coffee was every bit as good as his 3 cats. Maybe 5 things. His fiancée Yamada Hisashi was starting to really work his way up that list. Phone calls at 1 p.m., a full 3 hours before his alarm went off for the start of his day, was definitely not on the list of things he loved. In fact, it was near the very top of the list of things he hated. What? Shota barked as he picked up the phone. Excuse me? That is no way to answer the phone, a woman's vaguely familiar voice replied. Shota pulled the phone away from his ear to see the caller ID, only for it to come up as unknown. Not in his contacts, then. Who is this? He grumbled. I'm hurt, Shota. You don't even remember your dear sister? The woman, apparently his sister Inko, sounded viciously mocking. It's too early for your sheet, Inko. We haven't spoken in 7 years. What do you want? Inko was silent for a moment before asking, Are you just now waking up? Half the day is over. I always knew you'd be a useless waste of oxygen, but I thought you'd at least maintain the same sleep schedule as a productive member of society. What? Is Mom still paying your bills too? Honestly, that villainous mutation of yours dash. Shota ended the call. There was now something he hated more than 1 p.m. phone calls. It's a 1 p.m. phone call with his beach of a sister. He had just reached to place his phone back on the nightstand so he could go back to sleep when it rang again, showing the same number his sister had just called from. Shota glared at it, contemplating on if he was going to answer or not. With a weary sigh he hit accept. If you are just calling to bitch about my sleep schedule when I work night shifts, then I'm going to hang up on you again, he warned. I apologize, Shota, she started. I just want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're already 19, and Mom shouldn't need to be taking care of you anymore. You need to. Shota thought about hanging up again, but instead just interrupted her. Mom hasn't been taking care of me. I have an apartment, a good-paying job, and a fiancé. Now, what did you want? Inko hesitates for a moment before saying, It's my son. He's got one of those brain mutations you and Dad have. The quirk specialist thinks it might have something to do with electricity. And? Shota was confused. Maybe it was because he was still half asleep, but he couldn't see where she was going with this. Why was she calling him? He's not a quirk counselor. What exactly does this have to do with me? What do you mean, what does this have to do with you? It has everything to do with you. He's your nephew. You need to figure out what his quirk is and train him. Inko yelled at him. Honestly, you're so useless in everything else. The least you can do is take care of your own blood. I'm not a quirk counselor, Inko, I can't just dash. He was cut off by his sister again yelling at him. Don't give me excuses, Aizawa Shota. You're going to meet me tomorrow for lunch, and you're going to introduce yourself to Izuku, and you'll be taking him for a month and teach him how to use his quirk. Shota pulled his phone away from his ear just to take a calming breath. Or two. He had forgotten just why he was never upset with his sister for cutting all communications with him 7 years ago. Inko, first of all, I work night shifts, so I am asleep during the day. I will not be meeting you for lunch tomorrow, or any day for that matter. The best I'm willing to do is an early morning breakfast. Second of all, while I do not live with Mom, I do live with my fiancé, and I'm not taking in anyone without talking to him about it first. Shota barely had time to pull his phone away from his ear before his sister's hate-filled vitriol started spewing out. This was not something he was willing to listen to, so he just waited until he heard a lull in her rant and then said, "Not that this wasn't absolutely riveting, but I'm not willing to put up with your verbal abuse. I hope the kid learns how to use his quirk. You should look into some quirk counselors. Have a nice life, please lose my number." With that, Shota hung up the phone. The door to the bedroom opened slowly, showing Hisashi in a bright yellow hoodie. "Sho? You okay?" he asked. "My sister called." Shota looked up at his fiancée and gave him the most deadpan expression he could muster. "She's still a beach." Hisashi walked over to the bed and sat down next to Shota. "I didn't know you had a sister. You want to talk about it?" "Not really," he replied. "I want to go back to sleep." "Okay, love. Maybe we can continue this once you wake up?" Hisashi suggested. "Fine." With that, Shota let himself flop back down and fell asleep. 3.5 hours later, Shota grumbles his way into the kitchen, toweling his hair and reaches for the mug of coffee that Hisashi had already poured for him. Taking the first sip of caffeinated heaven, he was reminded once more of how high on the list of things Shota loved this man was. "So, the sister I've never heard about?" And just like that, Hisashi was at the bottom of the list. Shota glared at his coffee while getting his thoughts in order, knowing Hisashi would never just drop the subject, and then spoke. "My father hasn't kept a faithful relationship ever. His quirk, from what I remember, is something along the lines of being able to see people's emotions. He's a sweet-talking, manipulative being, and it's very likely I have more than just one sister. My mother was friends with Inko's mom, Akari, but since Inko was 10 years older they never felt we should be forced into being friends or anything. But because of that, when my mother died, Akari decided to take me in. I was 7. Hisashi had come up behind Shota and wrapped his arms around him, being a support pillar for his fiancée, but not stopping his story. Akari was devastated at the loss of her best friend, so she focused a lot of her attention on me, and since Inko was 17 and constantly out with her friend Mitsuki, Mom didn't really think too much about it. But Inko felt that I was stealing her mom away from her. Here Shota paused to down the rest of his coffee and then walked over to the machine to pour a second cup. She also hates mutant-type quirks because of Dad. "Okay?" Hisashi asked, confused. Quirkist of her, but not too sure what that has to do with Dash. "Erasure is a mutation quirk, Zashi," Shota said with a deadpan look. "There's a mutation in the occipital lobe of my brain as well as my eyes." "Oh, I always thought it was an emitter type," Hisashi mumbled. "Inko was the very first person to call my quirk a villain's quirk, and she made sure to make my life a living hell for about a year until she went off to college. She would occasionally come back for visits, but I haven't seen her at all in 7 years. I don't think she knows I'm a hero, come to think of it." Hisashi held Shota tightly again and just hummed quietly. After a few minutes he asked, "Why did she call?" "Oh, she has a kid, brain mutation quirk, was demanding I drop everything and take the kid in for at least a month and teach him how to use a quirk that apparently looks to be a minor electrical quirk, but she's not sure." You're not a quirk counselor," Zashi stated helpfully. "Maybe she should reach out to one of them?" I was going to say I can meet her for an early breakfast and hand over a list of quirk counselors, but she started shrieking at me about how I don't care about my own blood, and when I said my fiancé was a guy, well, I didn't feel like listening to all that hate. Especially when I'm still half asleep. Shota was leaning fully into Zashi's hold, breathing in his fresh sunshine scent, admitting to himself that he really was near the top of his list after all. I'll give her one more chance. If she calls back and at least makes an attempt at being civil, I'll give her a list of Quirk counselors, but if not, I'll block her number. Fair. 6 years later. Happy birthday to me, Izuku quietly sang to himself while sitting on the roof of his apartment building. He was watching the stars, waiting for the meteor shower that was supposed to happen tonight, and wishing someone other than himself cared that today was his 10th birthday. Looking at the stars, and thinking about just how much was out there, it always made his problems seem smaller somehow. He knows from reading on psychological websites, that people handle trauma differently, and he's pretty sure that's partially why he spends so much time on the computer and tapping into the signals. A nice was to relax. It took a few years, but he finally stopped calling them whooshes when he realized what they really were. A streak of green light zipped past Izuku, and curiously he tapped into the signal only to quickly drop it. Gross. Why would someone look at that in the middle of the night? Sighing, he flopped onto his back and found the constellation for Cancer in the sky. Tracing the stars with his finger, he tapped into the signal from his computer in his room downstairs and started rereading the myth behind the sign he was born under. In the past 6 years, Izuku had learned how to somewhat use his quirk. He was sure there was a lot more to it than what he had come to figure out, but having never been to a quirk counselor, there wasn't really anything he could do about that. Every time he tried to bring up the idea to his mom, she would either slap him or use her quirk to throw something at him. He stopped asking her when she started throwing knives. From what he has been able to figure out, he can tap into phones and computers and control them from a distance. So long as his computer is on in his room, he can search the internet all the way from the roof. He's also able to look at what other people are doing by accessing other signals, but he doesn't dare try interrupting them. Now, Izuku's not an idiot. He knows that he could get into a lot of trouble if anyone knew he was able to spy on them, so he's never told anyone what exactly he can do. All anyone knows is he can see electrical signals. Which he can see all sorts of signals. He knows which batteries are dead or half-charged, which wires shouldn't be touched, if the toaster is broken again or if it's just not plugged in, but that's just the simple stuff. The stuff he's willing to talk about. He won't tell anyone about how he purposely misdirects the signals when the principal tries to call his mom after he gets in trouble for fighting at school. And what a joke that is. Fighting? Really? Sure, he hates it when Kakin and his followers try to beat up other people. He always tries to step in to protect them, but that shouldn't be considered fighting. So yes, he always makes sure that particular signal never makes it to his mom's phone. Izuku rubs at the burn that's hidden by his sleeve, wishing not for the first time that Kakin would at least leave him alone on his birthday. Moving on from the myth of Cancer, Izuku went to a page detailing the personality of his sign. Represented by the crab, Cancer seamlessly weaves between the sea and shore, representing Cancer's ability to exist in both emotional and material realms. Cancers are highly intuitive and their psychic abilities manifest in tangible spaces. But just like the hard-shelled crustaceans, this water sign is willing to do whatever it takes to protect itself emotionally. Doesn't really sound like me, Izuku muttered. I mean, yeah, intuitive, maybe, definitely emotional at times. Izuku was distracted by a bright flash of a red signal. He jumped up instantly and went to the edge of the roof to try to get a better vantage point to see the signal. Red signals were always his favorites. Those were usually when a hero was calling in a takedown to the police. On our way was the only thing that was left from that signal when Izuku was able to finally tap into it. The red ones were usually longer, but there was one hero that was always so precise that Izuku had never been able to hear their voice, and he was sure that's who this signal was from. So cool. Once upon a time, Izuku had wanted to be a hero, but 6 years of beatings from Kakin and his friends was enough to change his mind. And if it wasn't, his quirk was really distracting. And sometimes it was still able to overwhelm him, especially when he was around a lot of people who all had phones with them. Once again, Izuku wished he could have been able to go to a quirk counselor when he was younger instead of trying to figure out his quirk all on his own. His face fell as he thought to himself about just how much work he still had left to do in getting his quirk all figured out, when he heard a sound behind him. Turning around, Izuku saw a man in a black jumpsuit with a long gray scarf. He had long shaggy black hair, and looked as if sleep was a foreign concept to him. "Hey kid, what are you doing out this late?" the guy asked. "Waiting," he replied. "The meteor shower is supposed to start soon and I want to watch it." Raising an eyebrow, the man said, "Kind of hard to watch a meteor shower when you're looking at the ground." Izuku checked the time and smiled softly. "Well, it doesn't start for another 5 minutes, and I'm trying to get my head in the right space to appreciate it." "That doesn't sound ominous at all. Want to talk about it, kid?" Izuku looked at the man with some confusion before realizing that he was on the edge of a roof, looking down, and slightly depressed. Quickly jumping away from the edge, Izuku exclaimed, "Oh no, it's not like that. I wasn't going to jump or anything, I really was just here getting my head in order." When the guy didn't make any moves to leave, Izuku had the sneaking suspicion that this guy might be a hero, maybe an underground hero. Still being tapped into the signal from his computer, Izuku decided to try to run a facial recognition on this guy, see if he could figure out who he was. In the meantime, though, while waiting for the results to come in, Izuku decided to make an excuse for why he was up here. "It's just that, well, there's a test at school coming up and I didn't do so well on the last test, so even though I was studying a lot, I'm still worried. But I swear, I wasn't thinking about jumping off." The guy kept looking at him skeptically. Izuku saw a flash of light above, and for a moment thought it might have been one of the signals, but then the guy also looked up. "Oh, it seems there really is a meteor shower," he muttered. Izuku nodded his head emphatically and grinned. "I like looking at the stars sometimes. And I was reading the myths on some of the different constellations, like, did you know that Cancer is a crab, representing a creature named Carcinus from Greek mythology?" Izuku was totally reading off of one of the tabs he still had opened on his computer screen. When the guy just shook his head, Izuku went on to explain further. "Carcinus is a relatively unknown creature from the tales of Greek mythology, but it does appear in a famous story, for it was encountered by Heracles as he completed his second labor, the slaying of the Lernaean Hydra. Carcinus was a huge crab that was sent by the goddess Hera to distract Heracles when it appeared that he was about to beat the Lernaean Hydra. Carcinus wasn't really able to distract Heracles, because he simply crushed it beneath his foot, and then continued killing the Hydra. Hera still placed the giant crab amongst the stars as the constellation Cancer." "You know a lot about astrology?" the guy asked cautiously. "Well, not really, but I was curious, and it's my birthday today, and I'm a Cancer, and I was waiting for the meteor shower anyways." Izuku was looking right up at the stars with a look of wonder on his face. The star show was almost as beautiful as the signals he was able to see on a regular basis. The man decided to look up at the stars and watch with him for a while. About an hour later, Izuku saw a light blue signal come to the guy's phone, a text message. "Ayani, are you okay? You were going to be home by now, I thought? Just let me sleep, sheet. I lost track of time, but I'm fine. Found a kid on a roof, thought he was going to jump, turns out he's a stargazer. Pretty cool meteor shower. Okay, but you are okay? And the kid is okay too? Are you going to be home soon? Just let me. Yeah, I'm okay, the kid's okay, and I'm heading home now. See you soon, love you babe. Just let me sleep, see you soon." The guy put his phone back in his pocket and turned back to Izuku. "It's late, you really should get to bed, especially since you're worried about some test at school." Izuku hummed, still watching the stars. The meteor shower had ended, so there really wasn't any reason to stay here. "Thanks for keeping me company." Izuku waved at the guy as he went back to the roof access door. "Hey kid," the guy called out right as Izuku was about to go through the door. "Happy birthday." Izuku looked back at him and gave him his most brilliant smile. "Thank you." As he was walking down the stairs, he realized he never did ask the guy for his name. Oops. Glancing at the tab he had kept open for the facial recognition search, Izuku noticed there was a match. Who's Eraserhead? Shota was almost home, thinking about that odd kid. He really had thought he was going to jump for a little bit there, the way he was staring at the ground as if someone had crushed all his hopes and dreams, while standing oh so very close to the ledge. Shota has had to talk a few people away from ledges in his years as a pro hero, and kids were always the hardest for him. As he was climbing up the fire escape to the window he used to come in and out of the apartment he shared with his husband, Shota couldn't help but feel the kid was really familiar. Had he met the kid before? He was sure he'd remember a kid with eyes like that, full of starlight and wonder and a smile that was as bright as the sun. "Babe, that better be you climbing in my window," he heard Zashi call from the living room. With a snort, Shota replied, "Of course it is. No one else would be stupid enough to come in through a window when there is a perfectly good front door right over there." Hizashi leaned his head back just as Shota came close and was able to get a quick kiss from his husband. "How was your patrol?" "Pretty uneventful up until the end," he answered. Going to the kitchen, he saw the dinner Zashi had left out for him, and he took in and went to the couch to sit and eat with him as he told him about the kid. "You should have seen this kid, Zashi. As soon as he realized I thought he was going to jump, he backed off from the ledge and explained how he was stargazing. Then when it was clear I wasn't buying his story, he started to tell me about the myth behind the Cancer constellation. It was disgustingly adorable." "Ah, it sounds like you made a friend," Hizashi crooned. Choosing to ignore Zashi's antics, Shota added, "I don't think the kid has a good home life." Instantly Hizashi got serious. "What makes you say that?" Shota paused, trying to figure out what exactly it was that set him off. Was it the way he looked defeated when looking off the edge of the building? Was it the long sleeves in the middle of a summer night? He was on a rooftop, alone, at 11 p.m. on his birthday. Even if he really was telling the truth about wanting to see a meteor shower, he should have had his parents with him. The kid couldn't have been more than 8. "You're going to go back to see him again, aren't you?" Hizashi asked. And yes, he was going to go back. This kid probably needed someone in his life to support him. He could see some of himself in this kid's eyes, how he was before his mom adopted him, and how he was when his sister would berate him for no reason at all. Izuku was both concerned and happy that the guy he met on the roof, Eraserhead, kept showing up. On the one hand, after all of his research he's found out that Eraserhead is awesome. And he's figured out that the super effective hero who he'd never heard on the red signals is Eraserhead, and he's so cool. Izuku had spent hours watching him, tapped into the signal from his computer to dive into the city's cameras and following Eraserhead whenever he patrols, and his takedowns are a thing of beauty. But on the other hand, because he is watching Eraserhead, he knows when the hero is coming to his apartment to try to catch him on the roof. Why does he keep doing this? Is he really worried he's going to jump? Izuku has never wanted to do that, no matter how often Kaken burns him, or how often his mother hurts him, or how often the teachers refuse to help him. But Eraserhead keeps showing up. Izuku really doesn't know what he wants, so whenever he's seen the hero making his way to him, Izuku goes back inside. Maybe one day he'll talk to the hero again, but it won't be this day. 2 years later. It was a nice night, cool and brisk, almost no clouds, and a bright moon lighting up the streets. This was the kind of night Shota liked the most, really made things easier for him on his patrols. Taking a slight break to slurp down a jelly pouch, Shota looked up at the stars. He never did forget about that rooftop kid, but he was never able to catch the kid outside again either. Shota hoped the kid was okay, that he was just being paranoid, or projecting his own experiences onto this kid. Maybe he had a wonderful home life and his parents didn't know he slipped out to watch the stars? Maybe he really was worried about a test at school? "Hey, Eraser. Glad to see you're in the area." Shota's comm usually beeped and had to be answered before the person on the other side could speak, but it seems the rules of technology don't apply to Datastream. "Data, I literally just sat down," he complained half-heartedly as he put the empty jelly pouch into his pocket and stood, ready for whichever direction Datastream sent him. Poor baby, is 3 minutes too short of a break? I guess I can always reach out to Cobra instead, he's just as close, Data teased, knowing full well that Cobra was one of the few underground heroes that Shota hated to deal with. With a growl, Shota replied, "Just tell me where to go, problem creep." Laughing, Data answered, 5 streets to your left, drag deal going down, but I am almost certain it's not going to end well. I'm almost tempted to have Cobra meet you there anyways, there's 9 of them. Shota was already heading over there when he had said the direction. "Don't you dare drag that irresponsible lout to my bust, or so help me, Data," I'll never answer another call from you again. Fine, but you better not get too hurt. I'll call in the takedown as soon as you engage. If you get yourself killed on this, I swear I'll resurrect you just to kill you again. With a snort, Shota reached the group and the fight began. Finishing up the last of the restraints, Shota finally let himself lean against the wall and take his weight off the injured leg. He had gotten stabbed, and knew it was just a matter of time before the problem creep was back in his ear telling him off for the injury he always did when Shota got injured. So, Shota smiled fondly. There was Data, just as he predicted. Just wondering here, but what part of "don't get hurt" didn't you understand? You specifically said not to get too hurt, and this is just a minor stabbing. Nothing too serious. Shota tried to defend himself. Nothing too serious, he says, as if that knife wasn't dangerously close to the femoral artery. I think I'm gonna call Present Mike and let him know you got yourself stabbed. Let him deal with you. Shota froze, not from the fact that Datastream clearly knew more about Shota that he should know. He'd long since realized this person knew more about everyone than he should, but that he knew just what Zashi would do to him if he was woken up to be told he had gotten stabbed. Data, please don't call him. I'm sorry, I won't get stabbed again tonight. Please don't call Mike. Shota could hear the sounds of several vehicles approaching, and was wondering if there was an ambulance among those or just the police ready to take away the 9 drag dealers. If you end your night right now, and head home as soon as the medics patch you up, I won't call him. But if you so much as make a single stop on the way home, you'll be greeted by Mike on the phone with me. Do you threaten all the heroes you work with like this, or am I special? Shota wondered. If I'm special, what can I do to stop being special? Shota could practically hear the deadpan expression in Data's voice when he replied, while you are my favorite, Eraser, you're not special. I treat all the heroes I like this way. Sure you do, kid, sure you do. I do. Just ask Shroud or Clover next time you see them, or even Mike. You don't even want to know how many times I've had to threaten to call you to get him to do something. Data seemed to pause. I mean nothing? I've never had to threaten Mike. I don't know what you're talking about. And oh look, the first officers are there. I'll talk to you later, Eraser. And remember, go straight home. With that, Shota could hear the connection ending on his comm. Shota gave his statement to an officer while the rest were busy dragging the drag dealers into the patrol cars, and a medic was tending his leg. Just as Data had said, he was lucky the injury didn't hit the femoral artery. It was really close. Hisashi was going to kill him regardless of if the problem creep called him or not. Well, that'll do it, Eraserhead. Would you like a ride somewhere? The officer asked. Knowing perfectly well that Data was still watching, and likely listening, Shota agreed. Not all the way home, don't want anyone knowing just where I live, but most of the way would be nice. Shota got in the passenger seat, and the officer asked him as they started driving to the area that was given, what is up with that Datastream person? No one has been able to give me a clear answer. Just who are they? I'm not really sure, Shota answered. They showed up one night while I was on patrol. I might have been the first hero they contacted. Really? What was that like? 1 year earlier. Listen, lady, I'm glad you're okay, but if you don't let me go I won't be able to catch the guy that almost killed you. Shota exclaimed to the lady that was hysterically clinging to him after the mugger who was attempting to mug her had missed with his attack and ran off. As he tried desperately to calm the woman down, he thought to himself, this is the part one hate most. It took nearly 10 minutes before the completely uninjured woman was able to calm down and go about her business, while Shota now needed to find the guy who nearly shot her with his gun finger quirk. Now, if I were a stupid mugger with a stupid quirk, where would I go? Shota muttered to himself as he ran across rooftops, looking for the escaped criminal. He heard the comm he kept on while patrolling come to life and a timid voice say, he's about a kilometer to the south. Shota nearly stumbled. What? Who are you? You're going the wrong way, the voice in his ear whispered. Shota instantly stopped and started looking around, wondering how this voice knew where he was and where he was going. How are you doing this? He finally asked. Are you going to go after him? Grumbling to himself, Shota took off in the direction the voice in his ear told him to go, and prayed this wasn't some sort of trap. A few minutes later, Shota came across the criminal, leaning against a wall trying to catch his breath, clearly assuming he had gotten away with his attempted mugging murder. Shota activated his quirk and made quick work of the guy, calling in the takedown less than a minute later. As he was waiting for the officers to arrive, Shota decided to reach out to the mystery voice. "How were you watching me?" Just when he was sure the voice wasn't going to answer him, they replied, "I was watching you through the city cameras." "That's not creepy at all," Shota deadpanned. "Sorry," the person said in such a quiet whisper Shota almost didn't hear. "Why?" There was no answer for a while, and then the voice, Shota was sure this was a kid, they just sounded so young, spoke up, "Because, you're my favorite hero, Eraserhead, sir." "Kid, how old are you?" Shota asked. There was no way this wasn't a kid. "I'm 11, he answered. 11. "What's your name?" Sorry, but I know better than to give my name out." "But before you try to say I'm being a vigilante, I'm not." "Yes, I'm using my quirk, but I'm not doing anything illegal," he defended himself, suddenly no longer shy. "Right. Nothing illegal. Just hacking into the city cameras, Hero Network comm units, normal things," Shota countered. "Totally legal. And that's why I'm not giving you my name," he said, and the shyness was back. "Look, problem creep dash. Problem creep. I'm not going to try to arrest you, you're 11, but I do think maybe your parents should know about the kinds of things you're getting up to. This is not a healthy activity for someone your age." "Datastream? What was that, kid?" "You can call me Datastream." "What I want to call my quirk," he supplied. "What do you mean? Is your quirk unregistered?" If this kid's quirk wasn't registered, that'd make it all the more difficult in finding out who this kid is. "Well, both yes and no," the kid, Datastream, hedged. "It's registered, but I haven't gone to get it updated, so the registration isn't really accurate anymore. My mom won't take me, and I can't make an appointment without a parent or guardian." Shota was quiet for a few minutes and was sure the kid was gone, but had to ask, "Are you safe at home, kid?" "Define safe?" Shota pinched the bridge of his nose and was about to say something else when Datastream spoke up again. "The police will be on scene in about 20 seconds. Have a nice night, Eraserhead, sir. I'll talk to you again soon." Then there was a quiet click in his comm and he knew Datastream was gone. Present. The kid's been showing up on a lot of hero comms in the past year. He's been a huge help in patrols. Normally shows up nights and weekends, which makes sense since he's probably in school. Shota paused a little and then said, "Kid, I know you're still listening in. You want to tell me your real name today? Maybe let me get you out of your home." He was answered by a quiet snicker over the radio in the squad car. "Nice try, Eraser. Honestly, it's cute how you still try. You and Present Mike are the only ones who haven't given up." A second later, just in Shota's comm, Data continued, "That's why you two are my favorites." Once again over the car's radio, "I'm expecting you to stay off your patrol for a few days, Eraser. Don't make me call anyone to yell at you." "You know I will." Yeah, I'll stay home for a week." "Will that make you happy?" Shota's only reply was a text message. Datastream. O, greater than over equal to less than over equal to, oh. How do you do this stuff, kid? I just want to know. Izuku giggled as he checked the time, 2 a.m. He probably should head to bed, he would need to get up for school in a few hours. As he was changing into his pajamas, Izuku thought over his words again. "Kid, I know you're still listening in. You want to tell me your real name today? Maybe let me get you out of your home." Maybe he should? It was getting really hard to just live his normal day-to-day life. Between his mother's tender treatment and the bullies, Kaken mostly Izuku couldn't go a single day without a new injury. But would it really be better? Eraserhead wanted to get him out of his current home, but who's to say another home wouldn't be just as bad? Izuku knows full well what the homes are like for kids with weak quirks, or villainous quirks. He knows that if people knew he was able to spy on heroes while they're out on patrol, he'd be abducted by a villain and forced to do things he doesn't want to do. So no, he won't tell him. Not yet. Not until he really has to. Izuku limped as he walked down the street towards school. This morning had been particularly rough, and for the life of him he just couldn't understand why. He had gone to the kitchen to pack the bento he had prepared the night before and to turn on the coffee maker for his mom when she walked in. Which is where things went all wrong. Izuku wasn't allowed to be in the same room as his mother, after all. But why? He briefly checked the bandage on his arm, making sure it wasn't bleeding through from where he had to pull out glass shards from the half-full coffee maker, careful not to aggravate the fresh burn from the hot coffee. Glad to see there was no blood seeping through, Izuku continued on to school, idly wondering if he had a sprained ankle or if it was just a bruise. Out of my way, Deku. Kaken had come up behind him and shoved him to the ground with only a small explosion to his back, honestly not even enough to scorch his uniform, just to give a nice concussive blast. As Izuku started to get up, he was met with a sharp kick to his ribs. "No one told you to get up, Deku," came Kaken's angry hiss. Izuku stayed on the ground until Kaken had moved on, grateful that he had been alone. If his followers had been there with him, there was no way Izuku would have gotten off so light. Wincing and worried he might have gotten a cracked rib, Izuku got up and made his way to the front doors of the school. Walking in and to his locker to change his shoes, Izuku saw that there were tacks in them. Dumping out the tacks, he put on his school shoes and trudged to his classroom, tapping into the camera feed and looking back through to see who put the tacks in his shoes this time. Oh, it was Tsubasa. Figures. Izuku was finishing up his lunch in the classroom when he caught sight of a few different red signals from outside the school window. He had come to realize that those signals, while usually from heroes, are actually the Hero Network communication program. And this many all at once means there's an attack of some kind. Tapping into the signal, Izuku starts listening in, seeing if there is anything he can do to help. The whole block is set up with bombs. Civilians are in the process of evacuation, but the bombs can still go off and we're not sure if we've found them all. A hero, Oculus, exclaimed. "I can handle the fires," Backdraft called out, dousing the flames closest to the evacuating civilians, "but not if too many more bombs go off. Everyone." Present Mike could be heard over the chaos. "I know you want to see the action, but please evacuate the area. This zone is not safe." Izuku was watching through the street cameras, listening in through the Hero Network comm units, and he was wondering if there was a way to find the bombs that Oculus mentioned. Think, Izuku, think. If the bombs can still go off, they must have some sort of trigger. Is it an electrical trigger? Izuku glanced around at the students that were filing back into the class after lunch, the teacher coming in seconds later. Knowing full well that it was dangerous for him to dive too deeply into his stream while around people, he decided that this was worth the risk. There were 4 separate apartment buildings in this area, evacuations still in progress, and the fires were already spreading. With the threat of more explosives, the fire department wouldn't dare to get close enough to put out the fires, and Backdraft couldn't handle all of this by himself. With a deep sigh, Izuku fully immersed himself into the stream and got to work. "Okay everyone, you've got Datastream on the comms. I'm here to see what, if anything, I can do to help," he announced over the HN comms. "Holy shit, it's Data!" Oculus cried out. "What do you need?" "I'll do whatever I can to help you get it. I need someone I'm connected to, so you'd be perfect OC, to get close to one of the bombs. I need to see if I can see something." Izuku paused. "Actually, no, sorry OC, I don't want you to do it. Yo Fat Gum. You're more durable, you up for this?" "Datastream. I think this is the first time you've ever reached out to me." "Of course I'm ready to help," he called back. "Great. Just head into one of the buildings suspected of having a bomb, and I'll let you know what else you need to do from Backdraft. Please turn to your left and spray." Izuku interrupted himself. "Yes, sir." Backdraft did as told and hit Endeavor full in the face with a spray powerful enough to throw him into the closest building. "Crap. Did I turn the wrong way?" "No, you did exactly as I asked," Izuku said. "Endeavor, get the F out of here. There's enough fire without you causing any more damage." Endeavor got up and practically exploded with flames, fortunately frying his comm before Izuku had to listen to his ranting. "Okay, Fat Gum, let's get started. Head over to where you think there's a bomb and I can take it from there." "Sure thing, Data," came his enthusiastic reply. As Fat Gum got closer to the building, Izuku was able to just barely make out the weak electrical signal of the bombs. Okay, just a little further, and then I'll be in range and you can go back to help with the evac. Whatever you say, I just want to stop these apartments from coming down. And I'm in, Izuku thought to himself. The signal was extremely weak, but once he was tapped in he could see that it connected to 12 different bombs, all of which were simple to disarm once he was in their network. Okay everyone, Izuku called out to the team of responders, the bombs are all disarmed. They won't explode unless someone Endeavor is stupid and blasts them with a full-on fireball. Izuku could hear all the heroes in the area calling out to him through the HN comms thanking him for his help, and then he laughed and said, "Yeah, you're welcome everyone, but look, I gotta run. Take care." Izuku came back to his consciousness to see angry red eyes glaring at him. Kaken. Deku, you think you're too good to pay attention in class? Ha! You effendi nerd. The classroom was mostly empty, only Kaken and 3 of his friends. No, Kaken, I just dash. Whatever Izuku was going to say for an excuse was cut off as Kaken let loose an explosion in Izuku's stomach, knocking him into the back wall. I didn't give you permission to speak, Deku. Izuku coughed, blood dripping from his lip. That one did some damage. He's pretty sure that the cracked rib from earlier was now broken and maybe worse. He coughed, wincing as that aggravated his ribs even more. Yeah, definitely worse than just broken, Izuku thought. Kaken had left with his friends by the time Izuku looked up again. Slowly, as to cause as little pain as possible, Izuku collected his things and tried to put his backpack on. Nope, not happening. He resolved to just drag it behind him and hope for the best. He managed to get a few blocks away from the school, deciding to try to catch his breath in the park. He was almost to a bench when he felt the hand on his shoulder. Haven't had enough yet, Deku? Oh no, 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 please don't be who I think it is. Izuku prayed uselessly, knowing full well it was Kaken. Why? Izuku really wanted to know why the universe hated him. He just wants one day, just one where no one was trying to hurt him. Was that too much to ask? Apparently it was, since this beating was by far worse than any other he's had in recent memory. I think that's all of my ribs now, he thought. I'm going to die here. I don't want to die here. I need help, came the desperate thought. Why did I never let Eraser help me before? Now it's going to be too late. Izuku couldn't see any signals, but he needed to find one. A red one, please, 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 there. Izuku tapped into the signal and almost wept when he realized it was Present Mike. Hey Mike. Hizashi looked up with a huge grin, raising a hand to his comm, totally not expecting his favorite hacker to get in touch with him, twice. On a school day. Datastream. What is up little listener? Great job today Dash. Hate to cut you off, Mike. But there's a kid in the park to your right that is getting the ever-loving sheet beaten out of him. Hurry, I don't think he'll live much longer if someone doesn't help. Sheet on it? Hizashi ran to his right, into the park where Data kept directing him. Hey, he yelled, just a hint of Quirk in his voice when he saw some blonde kid kicking a green baby on the ground. Do you want extra sheet? Present Mike? The blonde kid recognized him good. He backed off from the kid he was kicking and paled, knowing he was in deep sheet. He looked between Hizashi and the kid quickly and then ran. Data, can you get someone to go after that punk? I need to take care of this kid, Zashi called out through his comm. Hizashi quickly called for an ambulance for this kid. He was bleeding too much and his chest looked a bit misshapen. Gods only know how many broken ribs this kid has. Noticing his breathing was sounding wet, he figured the kid's ribs must have punctured a lung. Data? Hizashi asked when he realized he never got a reply from his favorite little listener. You still there? Still no reply. Oh well, it's a school day and he was super active today already. The EMTs showed up and Hizashi helped them load the unconscious kid into the ambulance, and then decided to tag along to make sure this kid was okay. All of the kid's ribs were broken, and 3 had punctured his lungs. Both arms were broken from where he was trying to protect himself and his head. Major concussion, one of his legs was broken. There was a lot of internal bleeding, and more than a few cuts, bruises, and even burns. He was in surgery for 2 hours before they could even start using any healing quirks. All in all, a miracle the kid lived. Hisashi was determined to stay with this kid until he woke up. "Hey, Mike, how's the kid?" a voice called from behind him. Turning, Hisashi saw Detective Tsukachi Naomasa, one of his favorite members of the police force. "He'll be okay," Zashi said. "I'm just glad I was so close. The blonde punk who did this to him ran off, but I'm sure Data can get you his information soon." "I hope so. What he did to this kid is unforgivable." Tsukachi left to go talk to the doctors, to see if he could get a head start on the paperwork that this was going to create. "I'm going to be late coming home. Actually, I might not be home before you leave for your own patrol. Just let me sleep. What happened? Are you okay?" "I can hear you." "Yeah, I'm fine. Datastream contacted me earlier, directed me to a kid getting the sheet kicked out of him. Literally. Almost died. Every rib in his body broken, 3 punctured his lungs, both arms broken, a leg, concussion, massive amounts of internal bleeding, cuts, bruises, burns. Those last 3 aren't all fresh either." Hisashi glanced up when he heard shifting from the kid, but he didn't wake up. "Just let me sleep, sheet. You're gonna stay until he wakes up, right?" "Of course. Tsuka's here too, already gave my statement. He's starting a case to find the punk but kid who thought to hurt this tiny green baby. Just let me sleep. I'll see if I can get the location of the kid from Data. He sometimes answers my texts. Good luck, Shota." Hisashi put his phone away when he heard the kid make a pained whimper, clearly on his way to waking up. "Hey there, little listener," Hisashi said quietly, seeing brilliant green eyes crack open. He reached for the nurse call button by the kid's bed. "How are you feeling?" The green baby opened his mouth to say something but only started coughing instead. Zashi was quick to get the listener a glass of water and helped him drink as the doctor came in with Tsuka and checked the kid over. "My name is Detective Tsukachi Naomasa," Tsuka said. "I'm with the Mizudafu Police Department. Are you okay if I ask you some questions?" "Weiss," the kid whispered. "Okay, first I should let you know that my quirk is called Lie Detector, and it does exactly as it sounds." Tsuka got a little smile from the kid at that. "First, what's your name?" "Midoriya Izuku," he replied to the detective's question for his name. "It's nice to meet you, Midoriya-kun. Can you tell me your parents' names?" Tsukachi asked him. "Midoriya Inko and Hisashi." "Don't bother trying for Hisashi, though he died a few years ago," Izuku said. He had tried to look up his dad a few years ago, as one of the first things he did when he realized just what he could do with his quirk, and it only took him an hour to find his dad had died in a villain attack. "That SCKS, little listener, but we'll get in touch with your mom and let her know you're here," Present Mike said. "I'm sure she'll be worried since you didn't come home after school." Izuku let out a sad laugh. "No, I don't think she even noticed I wasn't home." Hisashi wanted to cry at the listener's tone. He sounded so sad. No, this was not okay, he had to fix this. Maybe his mom is just really busy, and the little listener just doesn't understand? Please let that be the case. I'll still try to call her and see if she can come see you. Do you know her number? The listener, Midoriya, gave him his mom's number, and Hisashi excused himself to call her. After a few rings, the phone was answered. "Hello. Midoriya Inko? I'm Prohero Present Mike. I'm at the hospital with your son. He was injured in..." Hisashi was interrupted by the woman. "Is he dead?" she asked. "No, fortunately he lived. He was in surgery for a few hours before. If he's not dead, then I don't care. Call back if he dies." And with that she hung up on him. What? Did she really just? Hisashi didn't know what to do at that, so he walked back into the kid's room, with a shell-shocked expression on his face. "I told you, didn't I?" Midoriya asked bitterly, and Hisashi looked up at him. "That look, she flat out told you she didn't care, didn't she?" And yes, she had. That just stoked the rage in Hisashi's soul. He was not going to allow this to continue. "I need to make another call, excuse me. If this woman doesn't want her kid, well, Hisashi had been trying to talk Shota into adopting a kid for a few years now. What better timing? This kid needs a home, and he wants a kid. Shota had been holding out for his rooftop baby, but they can always just adopt 2 kids. There's no limit on the love he can provide. If Hisashi is able to love Shota's grumpy butt, he can love 2 kids. Hell, he can love 3. He's not gonna lie, if they had the chance to adopt Datastream, they'd both take it in a heartbeat. Shota picked up the phone on the first ring. He must not have really started his patrol yet. Zashi, are you alright? You never call once I've started my patrol. I'm in a level of rage I don't think I've ever experienced, and I need you to just blindly agree with what I'm going to suggest, because if you don't, I'm doing it anyways, he told. Shota, I am going to regret this so much, Shota said hesitantly, but what am I agreeing to? I've got what I need to get the kid I saved earlier today placed into emergency foster services, and I'm going to be bringing him home with me tonight. I'm going to use my emergency license. I'm also going to do everything in my power to take him away from his mother permanently. This tiny green baby is mine now. Hisashi took a breath and let it out slowly. I know you were holding out on that other kid, but this boy's mother told me she didn't care her son was in the hospital and to only bother her if he died. I can't leave him with her, I just can't. A few silent seconds passed before Shota said anything, and Hisashi was starting to get nervous. Was Shota going to agree? Say no? Would he be upset that Zashi was making this decision without him? After what felt like an eternity, Sho said, "All right, I suppose I'll meet you at the hospital to meet our new son." Hisashi did not squeal. He did not. There is no proof. He re-entered the kid's room with the biggest grin on his face, and briefly wondered why the kid was the one with the shell-shocked expression this time. So good news, listener. You're going to be coming home with me. Tsukachi looked startled at that. What? Since when? Just roll with it, Tsuka, you dig? This green baby is mine now. Sho's already said yes, so just get the paperwork started for me, yeah. You can't just kidnap kids, Mike, Tsuka started, but was cut off by the kid asking one of the most heartbreaking questions ever. You really want me? Oh baby bean, yes, I really want you. I mean, look at you. You're the most adorable baby bunny I've ever seen, and your mom clearly doesn't know what she's missing out on. Anyone would be lucky to have you as their kid. I'm the one lucky enough to have first claim. Hisashi had taken the kid's hand by this point. If you decide you don't want to stay with me and my husband, that's fine, and we'll find a good home for you, but I can promise you right here and now, I will be keeping tabs on you for the rest of forever. Midoriya smiled at him, and it was as if the very sun was shining through this kid's face. The detective left the room and started making whatever phone calls would be needed, and Izuku was left in the room with present Mike. Izuku still couldn't believe it, and he was of course listening in on the call when Mike was talking to first his mother and then later Eraserhead. They were really going to take him in. They wanted to take him away from his mom. They wanted to keep him. Izuku was so happy, but so confused at the same time. He hadn't even told them what his quirk was. What if they decided that it was too weak to live with him? Mike said Eraser was holding out for a different kid, so if he wasn't good enough, would they replace him? Then he'd end up at a foster home anyways. Don't think of what can go wrong, think of what is going right. Izuku thought to himself. So, I know your name now, but you don't know mine yet. Mike stated. My name is Yamada Hisashi. And my husband is Aizawa Shota. He'll be here soon to meet you. Izuku nodded, still unsure on what to do. Happy yes, hopeful too, but still unsure. How about we play a little game, Mike, Hisashi suggested. We can ask each other questions to get to know each other. I'll ask something, then you ask, and we go back and forth until Shota gets in and we can start over. Oh, sure. Alright. Listener, what's your favorite color? Hisashi grinned. Well, I really like a lot of colors, but I think my favorite would be... Izuku thought of the red lights, the ones belonging to the heroes on the HeroNet comms. Red. My turn. Hisashi nodded, and so Izuku asked, why do you call everyone listener all the time? Hisashi laughed at that. Shota used to gripe at me all the time for that. Okay, so it's a little bit of a story, so strap in. When I was still in school, in my 3rd year, I was trying to figure out all the finer details of my hero persona. I had already decided on the DJ theme, so I had to be loud and over the top, which, honestly, not that much different from the regular me, but I wanted to have something other than just, "Hey everyone," for a greeting when I showed up. It took me months, literal months to come up with something, and then one of our friends, Ingenium, said that when I talked no one had a choice but to listen to me since I was so loud, so why not call everyone listeners? I took it and ran, he laughed at that. I kept forgetting it though and kept slipping back into everyone, so I started using listeners, while out of costume too to build the habit. Now, well, it is a habit. Even when out of costume, I call everyone a listener. He shrugged. My turn. What's your favorite food? Katsudon. Izuku stated excitedly. I haven't had it in a long time, but it's always been my favorite. Really? Well, you'd never believe it, but I'm pretty good in the kitchen, so when we get home, I'll make it for you. I think I have all the ingredients, he thought for a minute and then said, if I don't, I'll send Shota out to get what I need. Okay, maybe getting the sheet beaten out of him was a good thing. He'll be away from his mom, he told the detective about Kaken while Mike, Hizashi, was on the phone with Eraser, Shota, so there was a good chance he'd never have to deal with him again, and now he's going to get Katsudon for dinner. Okay, my turn. Izuku thought for a moment and then asked, what's your favorite animal? Cats, he laughed. I used to not have a favorite, but then I started dating Sho, and he's always got a cat with him at home, and he acts just like a cat, and you never know if he really likes you, like a cat, and just when you're sure he hates you he comes over and snuggles up forcing you to pet him. He's the best ever, and I started loving cats because they remind me of my grumpy but husband. Smile was extremely fond as he talked about his husband, and Izuku was excited to meet him in person. He knew Eraserhead, but was that just his hero persona? Maybe he was different in his normal life, if this Catman Hizashi is talking about is anything to go on. Little listener, what's your favorite animal? Hizashi asked. I haven't really been around all that many, but I do like cats too. They're cute. And there are so many cute cat videos out there. I bet you and Shota will have a lot of cuddle sessions with cat videos, Hizashi predicted. I know we do that a lot on weekends, so we'll just drag you into the middle of our cuddle fest. There was a knock on the door before Izuku could ask another question, and when the door opened, Eraser, Shota stepped in. He took one look at Izuku and grinned. Hey there, Rooftop kid, you still into stargazing? What? My tiny green baby is also your Rooftop kid. Why Shota erased Hizashi's quirk right as he got started, but that didn't stop him. I knew you'd be the perfect addition to our family. Sho's been looking for you for years, little listener. With a sigh, Shota came over and took the seat Tsukachi had been sitting in earlier. Yeah, and I guess since you're here, that means I was right 2 years ago when I felt you had a sheet home life. That's why you kept coming back? Izuku exclaimed. I thought you just thought I was suicidal or something. Which I'm not. And never have been. You, Shota paused, thoughtful expression on his face. You knew I kept coming? Well yeah. I mean, oh shit. Izuku realized he had just given himself away. He'd have to tell them he was Datastream now. There was no other real way for him to know that the extremely stealth-heavy underground pro Eraserhead had been keeping tabs on him otherwise. If I said the way I knew was slightly less than legal, but that I was working on a way to make it legal, would that put a damper on things? Izuku asked nervously. Absolutely not, Hizashi said instantly. You're my tiny green baby now, and I'm not going to let something like illegal activities, unless it's murder, that's a big no-no, stand in the way of taking my green baby home. Same answer, less enthusiasm, Shota deadpanned. Well, here goes. Izuku took a deep breath to steady his nerves and then tapped into every speaker in the room, both pros' phones, the call button on his bed, the TV against the wall, and said through them, Yo guys, Datastream here, how's it hanging? Silence. That deep, uncomfortable silence that makes a person want to run is what he was met with, for like an hour. Well, more like a minute, but still. Trifecta of perfection. Shota erased his quirk, but that will never stop this level of excitement. I was thinking earlier when I told Sho I wanted to keep you that we could take in 3 kids, my green baby, Sho's Rooftop kid, and Data if we could ever get you to trust us enough with your name. And you're all 3 kids in one. If you didn't have broken ribs, I'd be hugging you right now. Shota's grin was creepy as hell when he said, again, same answer, less enthusiasm. Favorite color? Yellow. You. Red. Favorite animal? Cats. You. Makes sense. Favorite food? Jelly. You. Clarifying question. Favorite flavor? Cherry. Same question. Katsudon. Favorite season? Izuku and Shota were doing the same question and answer session that he had done with Hisashi, but Shota was being very unoriginal in his questions and answers. This was the first time he had to pause for an answer, and Izuku was hoping he could get a decent reply this time. You. Nope. Ugh, no, I want a reason why? Izuku complained. Laughing, Hisashi said, oh, I know this one. Winter is too cold for his night patrols, spring is too rainy, and summer is too hot to sleep during the day. Well, he's not wrong, Shota shrugged. Detective Tsukachi chose that moment to return, holding all the paperwork necessary for the 2 heroes to take temporary guardianship of Izuku. As he handed them over, the 2 pros started reading. Hold up, Shota suddenly stood eyes wide. Midoriya? Your name is Midoriya and your mom's name is Inko. Yes? Oops, I forgot to introduce myself properly, huh? That maybe should have been your first question, Izuku laughed. Shota's wide eyes slowly started to narrow and he was legitimately growling now, making everyone in the room shiver in fear. Dead. She's FNG dead. I'm going to kill her. Show babe what dash. Shota looked at Hisashi, cutting him off with his glare alone. Zashi, my sister's name is Midoriya Inko. Looking back to Izuku he asked, your quirk, is it a brain mutation with electrical elements? Izuku nodded. Are you the uncle that mom said is a villain too lazy to get a real job? I mean, see clearly I know as she's W wrong about T that, but dash, Izuku stammered out. Yes, that's me. Shota sat back down in his chair. He ran his hand down his face, tamping down on his anger. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. Data no, Tsukachi, you are going to find Inko and arrest her. I know you have enough for that, right? Question. Izuku interrupted. Why did you stop yourself from asking me? You are aware that using your quirk the way you do is technically illegal, right? Shota asked. Only kinda, but not really? I mean, yeah, the hacking is a gray area, but I normally am not in public when I really use it, so no public quirk usage, and even if I was in public, no one can tell. Like, can you tell right now that I'm using it? You are. Hisashi asked. And you can't tell. I am really good about multitasking normally, except for when I need to fully dive in, like what I did earlier today at that apartment bomb thing. When I'm just looking for information, it's super easy to just run a search and leave it alone, but when I'm actively following cameras throughout a city, jumping from one to another, tapping into the HN comms to listen and talk to you, and then keeping an eye on the villains and victims, and calling an EMT and calling police for the takedowns, well, that's when it gets to be a bit much. Izuku nervously grins. I can't do that and maintain full consciousness. That's why I usually am only on for nights and weekends, when I'm not at school. Tsukachi is standing there, staring at Izuku with a look between shock and horror. Oh gods, I've just met Datastream. I need to sit, and sit he did, right there. On the floor. Well, it seems he's a little distracted, so it's a good thing I was looking for whatever info you would need on my mom, right? Izuku pet his head to the side, eyes slightly glazed over. Oh, Mike, I think she may not have been thinking clearly when she answered the phone earlier, Izuku directed to Zashi. She just bought a plane ticket out of the country. She's going to Italy. She realized she messed up. With a devious grin, Izuku looked at Shota. Want me to flag her for customs so she can't leave? Shota answered with an equally devious grin. Yes. And we'll have her brought back for questioning. It's a little scary just how you're able to do all that, Hisashi said, awestruck. I know, right? The first time I watched my mentor do something like that left me speechless. He's training me on how to do this stuff quicker and more efficiently. That's what I mean about how I'm working on making my less than legal activities legal. My mentor is helping me to get an intelligence license. He says I'll be ready for the provisional license soon. Shota looked at him with that, "I'm done with the world" look of his and then said, "Is your mentor rat-shaped?" "Yes. My mentor is Nedzu, the rat god. He's been teaching me the best and most efficient ways to gather information. He wants to meet me in person to learn more about my quirk, since I still don't know everything about it, but I keep putting it off to keep my identity secret." Izuku gave a wry look at Shota. "I've never been to a quirk counselor, so I've had to figure out my quirk on my own, and I know there's a lot I haven't managed to touch on." Intelligence license. "You aren't planning to be a hero?" Hisashi asked. "Nope. Quirk's really poorly suited for that," Izuku muttered. "I used to want to be a hero, though." Shota and Hisashi shared a look before Shota said, "That's a topic to revisit later, but for now, just make sure Inko can't leave the country." Tsukachi, he directed the last bit to the detective who was just now getting over the shock of meeting Datastream in person. "Can you go pick her up when she's caught?" "Why yeah, I'll go get her." He stood up from the floor and stopped on his way out the door. Should I call you Midoriya or Datastream?" With a brilliant grin he said, "Unless I'm streaming, call me Izuku." The two pros had signed Izuku out of the hospital and they had made it home. They got to the front door and Shota stopped them. "Okay, so we have 3 cats, Coffee, Cream, and Sugar. They're all from the same litter and they're 9 years old." "I've never seen a cat up close," Izuku said. "What should I do?" "Well," Hisashi stepped in, "you might want to avoid the pure white one. That's Sugar, and contrary to her name, she's not sweet at all. She's a little demon. And along those lines, the black one is Coffee, and he's the cuddliest little sheet you'll ever meet. Cream is the black and white one, and he only likes Shota. He'd like you too if you would shut up and sit still for more than 10 minutes, Shota grumbled. "But the thing with cats is you want to ignore them and let them come to you. If you try to find them constantly, they'll start to avoid you. You can try to buy their trust quicker with treats, but Cream and Sugar are on diets. Zashi keeps trying to buy their love." Keyword, trying I take it? Izuku asks with a smirk. 9 years and counting, he won't admit to failure. They walked into the apartment and were greeted by 2 cats, the ones Izuku identified as Coffee and Cream. Coffee looked right up at Izuku and he knelt down to offer a hand, like he had seen in online videos, and the cat sniffed him and then butted his hand. "He likes you," Shota said. Not surprising for him, Coffee loves just about anyone with a pulse. The real test will come with Sugar. "Don't get your hopes up," Hisashi hissed, glaring down the hallway. Izuku looked that way and saw a beautiful white cat with blue eyes glaring equally at Hisashi. "Oh, she's beautiful," Izuku whispered. "Yeah, and she likes being appreciated from a distance. Come on, I'll show you to your room." They walked further into the apartment, Shota showing Izuku the layout while Hisashi went to the kitchen to get dinner started. The next morning found Izuku sitting on the sofa in the front room waiting for the 2 pros to wake up. He hadn't heard any communications to Eraser stating she had been brought to the station, and he was curious. Had the detective simply decided not to call that late? His mother should have been at the airport by now, but nothing. "Where are you?" Izuku thought to himself as he noticed the flight his mother had booked had taken off without her, but that her passport hadn't been dinged. She never went to the airport. "Oh, a challenge," Izuku whispered as he fully dived into the stream. He had to locate one person in a country full of people, since he knows his mother most likely has left the city. A few hours later, Shota trudged out of the bedroom and shuffled to the coffee maker. After turning it on, he turned to Izuku. "How long have you been awake, kid?" Izuku didn't answer, deeply immersed into his stream, his eyes fully glazed over and twitching slightly. Shota had never seen something like this and he almost wanted to try to erase the kid's quirk to make sure he was okay, but decided to try something else first. "Just let me sleep. Data, you okay?" "Over there?" "Datastream, huh?" "Yeah. My mom didn't show up at the airport, so I'm searching for her. Japan is a huge country, you know. And she's not in Mizudafu anymore. But hell if I know where she is. I think I'm missing something obvious. I might need to ask Rat God for help. Just let me sleep." "Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure you were okay." You're looking out of it. Datastream? Yeah, I told you last night that I lose full consciousness when I'm in the stream. This is what I meant. I'm fine. If you need me, you can call or text. I'll see that, but you can do anything to my physical body right now and I won't know it. My mind isn't there. Maybe if you erased my quirk I'd be back, but I'd really prefer you didn't do that right now. I'm 300 kilometers out of Muzutafu right now and I don't even want to know what it'd feel like to be forcefully slammed back from that. Just let me sleep there. Well, good luck, I guess. I'll let you know when breakfast is ready. Datastream, K thanks. Shota put his phone away and poured the coffee. Glancing at the kid, he noticed that Sugar had jumped up to the couch next to him and was cautiously approaching him. She carefully got on his lap and started purring, the kid completely unaware of the fact he had been blessed. That is creepy as hell, Hizashi said as he walked in, looking at Izuku. He's definitely your nephew. Shota shoved him and went to sit at the counter, still watching Izuku. We're still keeping him. Naturally, Hizashi answered as he started pulling out ingredients for breakfast. It looked like he was going to do pancakes. Just means we'll be uncles instead of dads. Or we could be uncles and dads. Or I can be dad, and you can be uncle. The possibilities are endless. Shota snorted but didn't reply otherwise. Sugar likes him, he said instead. What? Hizashi shrieked and turned to look again at Izuku, noticing Sugar on his lap for the first time, glaring at him. My tiny green baby has been blessed. As Hizashi went back to getting breakfast made, Shota couldn't help but try to wrap his mind around the fact that this kid, his rooftop kid, Datastream, was his nephew. His nephew who had been subjected to his sister's care for far too long. Izuku shouted out, just as Shota was about to text him to let him know breakfast was ready. I can't find her. What the hell? He was about to stand up when he noticed the white cat on his lap. Oh, hello. Sugar simply closed her eyes and looked as though she went to sleep. How are you searching? Shota asked. Maybe I can give some ideas? Izuku threw his head back against the couch. I put out a facial recognition program Nedzu taught me a few weeks ago, hoping to find her. It's running on all of the street cameras in the country. I also have a program set to alert me if she uses any of her bank cards, and another looking for her car. That's probably what I'd suggest, to be honest. I'm not sure what else you can really do. Shota was impressed. I was looking manually through a bunch of cameras throughout a few cities, just in case she had on a disguise. And now I have a headache. 010. Do not recommend looking at 5,317 cameras at the same time for 4 hours while running multiple background searches. Izuku massaged his temples, still careful not to dislodge the cat. Hizashi and Shota traded a glance, with Hizashi mouthing, 5,000. Well, Shota recovered first. When you're ready for breakfast, it's done. Thanks. Do you have anything for a headache? Datastream? Hey Nedzu, I am looking for someone, and I think I'm missing something obvious. Ratgod? Why hello Data? Who are you looking for and what have you done to locate them? Datastream, I'm looking for my mom. I put out the facial recognition live search program you taught me a few weeks ago, hoping to find her. It's running on all of the street cameras in the country. I also have a program set to alert me if she uses any of her bank cards, and another looking for her car. Ratgod, impressive. But you are right, you may have overlooked something. Datastream, I knew it, what did I miss? Ratgod, she has a cell phone, does she not? I am a freaking moron. Izuku yelled out. Shota cracked open one eye to look at his nephew sitting on the couch, Sugar lazily accepting chin scratches while Cream was draped over his shoulders purring like an engine. You know Zashi is going to be jealous when he sees you with both Cream and Sugar, right? They are sweet baby kitties. Izuku cooed at the cats. Such sweet little angels. Shota couldn't hold back the snort if he tried. Which he didn't. You've been really quiet over there, what are you doing? Oh, just rewatching Kaken get arrested, Izuku giggled. He's trying to deny that he did anything wrong, and everyone has always said he's perfect, so there's no way he could be doing anything wrong. Oh, this is my favorite part, when Mike shows up and tells him and his mom to shut up with just a hint of Quirk. How many times have you watched that? Shoyuta asks. Not enough. Shoyuta raises an eyebrow at him. Okay, it's like this. When I go back to school and Kaken's not there, people are going to ask questions, and they might find out that he was arrested because he almost killed me, and then the bullying is just going to get worse, because they're going to blame me. Tsubasa will probably take Kaken's place, and if he doesn't then some of the teachers will. Teachers? Shoyuta sits up from where he was laying on the couch, dislodging coffee. Have the teachers been abusing you too? Well, it's more mental from them. They encourage the others and purposely turn a blind eye to it all. I haven't managed to figure out how to save a copy of the camera footage. They delete it at the end of the day if it had any proof of the bullying. When Shoyuta didn't say anything, Izuku continued, Quirk discrimination. You know? My quirk's real weak, so I'm the school's punching bag. That's just how it is. Your quirk is not weak, Shoyuta said. Do you even realize just how strong it is? Izuku laughed softly. I do. Yeah. But I can't tell just anyone about it. I know what I can do. Can you imagine what would happen if instead of helping you catch villains, I was helping villains hunt heroes? If I told just anyone what I could do, I'm sure I'd be kidnapped within a day. So I just say I can see electrical signals. Battery charges, live wires, malfunctioning toasters. I tell everyone I'm weak, so they think I'm weak. So you let them abuse you? Izuku sadly nods. I'd rather get abused than used to hunt my favorite heroes. Then why did you tell Tsukachi who you are? Well, Izuku let out a small giggle. Part of that may have been the concussion talking, but part of it was probably the fact that he's him. I mean, Tsuka's the best. I've worked with him almost as much as I have you. I send him information to help solve his cases all the time. Shoyuta smiles softly. You trust him, don't you? Izuku nods again. Yeah. And seeing him slap those cuffs onto Kaken on repeat just makes me like him more. Kid, you really should be here, Shoyuta said through the earpiece he had, communicating with his nephew. Nope, came Izuku's reply. I don't want to see her in person again. I found her, sent her location, watched her as she ran and gave her location updates to Flowerbox, who I must say I have decided I don't like. So I think I've more than earned the right to never see her again. Fair enough. Shoyuta walked into the interrogation room to meet his sister face to face for the first time in 16 years. She looked a little different from how he remembered her, but not enough to where he couldn't recognize her. Inko looked up from the detective across from her to look at Shoyuta and he could tell she recognized him. After all, he did look almost exactly like their father. What are you doing here, Shoyuta? She sneered. Unless you're here to bail me out dash. He interrupted her with a glare. Do you have any idea just how much shit you found yourself in? She didn't reply. Izuku has told us everything you've done to him. All of the abuse, neglect, and trauma you've allowed to happen to that boy. Since when do you care? She hissed at him. I tried to give him to you 8 years ago, and you ignored me, you ignored him. So don't come back to me now pretending you care. You had your chance to help him when he was 4. Don't you dare try to push this onto me, Inko. Shoyuta growled, voice starting to rise a little. You told me to train him. I'm not a quirk counselor. You demanded I meet you in the middle of the day, when I need to be asleep for my night shifts. I offered to meet you for an early morning breakfast instead, which you refused. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get a 4-year-old kid up at 6 in the morning? No, you don't. You never cared about how things are for me. You're right, I was too busy protecting myself from you and your toxic bullshit to want to willingly subject myself to all that again. And I refuse to allow Izuku to have to put up with you anymore. You're never going to see him again. Good. I was hoping he'd be dead by now, but I know better than to do it myself. Wouldn't want to end up a villain like you. What the F makes you think I'm a villain? Just because my quirk is a mutation. Shoyuta yelled at her. Detective Tsukachi decided that would be a good place to step in and said, Aizawa is a pro-hero, Midoriya-san. Inko was glaring so hard at Shoyuta it took a minute for the detective's words to register, but when they did, bullshit. He's got a villain's quirk. I'm not joking. Aizawa is one of the best underground heroes in the country, Tsukachi said while Shoyuta smirked at his sister. Whatever. After a moment she continued in a much calmer tone. We couldn't have afforded a Quirk counselor anyways, Inko stated, trying to find some way to redeem herself, not realizing there was no redemption for her from these two men. Yet you never mentioned that to me. As a pro-hero, I could have afforded to send him to a Quirk counselor. Even if I couldn't, Hisashi could have. That's the whole reason I couldn't afford it. Inko yelled. Hisashi left me. Oh, right, we both married men with nearly the same name. I was talking about my Hisashi. Shoyuta paused a moment, and then muttered, I wonder if that's why Izuku won't call him by name? Ding ding. Izuku's voice comes from the calm Shoyuta almost forgot he was still wearing. Mike will probably always be Mike to me. I'm not going to call him by a name I have bad memories of. Izuku was done watching the scene between his mom and his uncle. And he was still having a heck of a time believing that the Eraserhead, was his uncle. And he wanted to keep him. Every time Izuku thought of that, he grinned. He really should have accepted his help the first time he offered, but he was too scared of all the ways things could have gone wrong to imagine all the ways it could have gone right. He was brought out of his thoughts by an incoming text. Rat God, favorite chaos child. Datastream, hey there Nedzu. How's my favorite rat god today? Rat God, I'm doing well, with the potential to do better. Datastream, anything I can do to help with that? Rat God, I heard your school needs to be burned to the ground. Would you let me have the honors of lighting the match? Datastream, oh of course. But only if you let me watch every move you make sigh, carrot for all carrot, sigh. Rat God, certainly. What kind of mentor would I be if I didn't show you exactly how to destroy an opponent? After learning about that school, there is no way I'm letting my tiny green baby go back to Aldra. He's changing schools, Hisashi said, running his fingers through Shota's hair as the two were watching as Izuku was immersed in his stream, apparently watching as their boss Nedzu lit Aldra on fire from a legal standpoint. Agreed. I was already looking at others. Nabu is the closest school to us. Aldra Middle School burns to the ground days after lawsuit. First responders arrived at Aldra Middle School yesterday to find the school engulfed in flames. Currently there is no word as to how the fire was started, but this comes mere days after the school had been found to be discriminating against students with weak or non-useful quirks. Shoyuta read the article with a sadistic grin. He knew it was a good idea to tell the rat that his nephew's school was shit. He took another sip of his coffee as he waited for Izuku to come to the kitchen for breakfast. Today was the first day of his new school, and he and Zashi were going to be taking him. Shoyuta knew Izuku was nervous. After what happened at Aldra, neither pro could blame him for being apprehensive. Good morning, uncle, Izuku yawned, giving Shoyuta a quick hug on the way to the coffee pot. Morning, Izuku. Pancakes are in the microwave, Shoyuta said. Zashi should be done getting ready soon, so eat up. Mixed pancakes are the best. Izuku happily got 3 pancakes and sat at the table, drizzling syrup on his breakfast. You ready for today? He asked. You know we can always just have you attend online school. Thanks, but I want to do this. I spend enough time online. Hisashi chose that moment to come into the kitchen, fully decked out in his present Mike garb. Good morning, my tiny green baby, he said and gave Izuku a hug and a kiss to the top of his head. Hey Mike, thanks for the pancakes. It's a big day and I know you like my pancakes. Can you believe Sho was going to just do a plain, everyday breakfast? Like, miso and rice is good and all, but this is a special day. Zashi exclaimed. My wonderful husband is so boring. I'm right here, Zashi, Shoyuta deadpanned. Uncle Mick's got a point, you are a bit boring. The little sheet had the audacity to smirk at him as he took another bite of pancake. Zashi squealed as he gave Izuku a tight hug. This right here is my favorite child. Izuku hugged him back with a huge grin. Oh, before I forget, Shoyuta said as he picked up a few papers and handed them to Izuku. The adoption is official. All you have to do now is pick a name. You can remain Dash. Aizawa, Izuku interrupted instantly. Aizawa Izuku. I've been thinking about it for a while. Aizawa Izuku. Shota's smile was soft, nothing like his normal one. Can I be Papa or Uncle Mike instead of just Mike now? Hisashi begged Zuku with his puppy eyes. We'll see. And my name is Ezao Izuku. Izuku stood in front of his new class, introducing himself and mentally cursing his nervous stutter. My Q quirk is C called a signal VView. I C can see electrical signals. Not entirely a lie, and since his quirk registry was never updated, that is what his quirk was technically registered as. Thank you. Aizawa-kun, please take a seat at that empty desk by the window behind Shinsu-kun, the teacher said. Izuku dutifully went to the open desk and sat behind the kid with the gravity-defying purple hair. Izuku was only halfway paying attention to the class, while the rest of his attention was spent reading an advanced coding book Netsu had sent him the other day. Netsu had been trying to get Izuku to create his own programs and not to rely on ones that had already been created. Izuku was finding the book to be quite informational, and he could easily see how this could help him. When the bell rang for lunch, Izuku took out his bento and stayed at his desk, not really wanting to interact with his classmates just yet. He was sure that they wouldn't be as bad as the classmates from Aldera, since Kaesibakugu wasn't here to turn them all against him, but some habits just don't die. One boy with flowing blue hair walked up to him. Hey there, Aizawa-kun, right? I'm Moreno. The first thing you should know about this class is that you shouldn't ever talk to Shinso. You shouldn't even sit near him outside of class time, he said. Why? Izuku looked up at Shinsu's back in time to see him hunching into himself. He hasn't done anything? Not yet, maybe, Moreno replied, but he's a villain, so it's only a matter of time before he brainwashes you. Better to avoid him. Come on, you can have lunch with us. Moreno gestured for him to follow, but Izuku didn't get up. I think I'll just stay here. You until he gives me a reason. I'm not going to treat him any different than anyone else. I don't like Q quirk discrimination. Izuku felt as though he might have signed his own death warrant with those words, but he wasn't going to just sit here and be a part of this. After all, he'd heard from Mike about the kind of quirk discrimination his uncle had gone through for having a villainous quirk, and he would be demed if he was going to take part in that same discrimination. Moreno just shrugged and walked off, with a parting comment. When he brainwashes you, don't say I didn't warn you. There was silence between Izuku and Shinso for a while, before Shinso turned around to look at him. If there was a reason for you to say all that, I'd like to know what it is. Oh, Izuku started, my uncle has a Q quirk that many people claim is villainous, but he's one of my favorite people. I can't in good conscience treat you like a villain without being a hypocrite. Izuku gave him his brilliant sunshine smile. Shinso stared at him for a moment, squinting slightly at just how bright his smile was, and then said, My quirk is called brainwash. If you verbally reply to a question, I can control you. Cool. I wish my quirk was useful like that. I use to want to be a hero, but my quirk I is more of a distraction than anything. I constantly see electrical signals. Is that why you are posing questions as statements? Yes. Unless you know all, he said with a raised eyebrow, making it a question without making it a question at the same time. I do. My papa is almost completely deaf, so I am made sure to learn. Izuku had learned present Mike was hard of hearing last year, the first time he tried to tap into Mixh and Com and saw that it was filtered through his hearing aids. That was interesting to figure out back then. Shinsu's eyes widened, and he signed, You're the first person to know sign outside my family. Maybe we can be friends? You're really cool with me having a villainous quirk? He asked. Izuku replied to that out loud, losing his stutter in his earnestness. There's no such thing as a villainous quirk, Shinsu-kun. Quirks are just tools, no different from a knife or a hammer. You can use a knife to make a sandwich or kill someone. You can use a hammer to build a house or to tear it down. A quirk is the same thing. Take Backdraft, for example. He could use his quirk to flood every building around, but instead he uses it to help the fire department put out fires. You're really serious about this subject, aren't you? I am. My favorite hero has a quirk that has been called villainous, but he's one of the top underground heroes in the country. I think he might even be the #1 underground hero, but those rankings aren't just available for just anyone to see. Of course, Izuku had seen those rankings, and his uncle is the #1 underground hero in the country. Are you talking about Eraserhead? Shinso asked. He's my favorite hero too. After that, Shinso and Izuku kept talking, Izuku's stutter nowhere to be found. Datastream, Uncle Mike, I think I want to change my chat name. I just made a friend, and I don't want him to know I'm Datastream. Just let me sleep. You have a friend already? So be nice. Poor they. Datastream. His name's Shinso Hitoshi, and his favorite hero is Eraserhead. That's kind of how we bonded? One of the other kids warned me not to talk to Shinso because he has a villainous quirk, and I called BS. I told him a quirk is just a tool no different from a knife or a hammer. Just let me. Zashi, I think I have the perfect nephew. Ayu. Our tiny green baby is indeed perfect. Datastream, /omega///. But seriously, any suggestions on a new name? Otherwise I'm going with either Tiny Green Baby or Green Gremlin. Just let me sleep, Tasake. So, you can't just put things like that in the chat without warning. Zashi's scream just blew out the windows in the teacher's lounge. I can hear. My baby loves me. Datastream, I like the name. Fits. Besides, Uncle, here's your warning. I love my Papa Mike. Just let me sleep, thanks for the warning. I was able to stop him from deafening the rest of the staff. He's still screaming, but at least it's at an acceptable level. Tiny Green Baby. Then until I get my official license, this is my new. Just let me. That should just be your name for everything until you get tired of being a baby and decide to embrace your inner gremlin. You don't see the rest of us using our hero names. You shouldn't either. Tiny Green Baby. You never thought about that. Just let me sleep, BTW, aren't you in class? You should pay attention. Tiny Green Baby, you do realize I can do multiple things at once, right? Texting and paying attention to a lecture on pre-Quirk history is super easy. I'm also reading a book on advanced coding I got from the Rat God. Izuku got home an hour after his uncles did, with a huge smile on his face. Hey Uncle Papa. How was your day? It was fine, Izuku. How was yours? Tell me about this new friend you made, Shoyuta requested, while tightening his hold on Hizashi, keeping him from tackling Izuku and clamping him in a hug. Zashi had duct tape covering his mouth and was making muffled screaming noises that were thankfully not quirked. Why does Papa have duct tape on his mouth? He asked with a raised eyebrow. Shoyuta gave him a deadpan look. You changed your chat name to Tiny Green Baby and called him Papa in the same conversation. He won't shut up and I'm tired of using my quirk every 30 seconds. Understandable. Izuku's smile came back at full brightness. So, like I said earlier, his name's Shinso Hitoshi, and he's a fan of yours, Uncle. His quirk is brainwashing, so people avoid talking to him. That's how he activates it, asking a question and getting a verbal reply. He prefers to sign to avoid accidentally using his quirk, and even though I said I wasn't worried about him using it on accident, he still is scared of talking out loud. That could be a really useful quirk, Shoyuta said. Aha, and he wants to be a hero, but he doesn't have anyone to train with, and he doesn't feel comfortable enough to get a membership to any of the local gyms. Izuku looked Shoyuta directly in the eyes and said, I wonder where I can find someone who mostly fights quirkless and would be willing to mentor a promising hero? I don't think you could be any less subtle if you tried. Shoyuta huffed out a dry chuckle. Okay, on one condition though. Okay. Izuku said hesitatingly. You train along with him. Izuku stared at his uncle for a solid minute before saying, You do know I don't want to be a hero, right? You said you used to want to be one. Yeah, but that was before I started to really understand my quirk. I really can't see myself as being useful as a hero with this quirk, Izuku said. And why is that? You know that a quirk is just a tool, you don't need it to fight. If you want to be a hero, you just need to work on your quirkless combat. Izuku closed his eyes and started searching the internet for a video of a laser light show. When he found one that was similar to what he wanted, he linked it to the television. This is what my vision looks like, Uncle. There were lasers of all colors, patterns, sizes and shapes. Tell me, how am I supposed to focus on what's in front of me when my vision is like this? When I tap into one of the signals and look through cameras, most of the lights are gone and I only see what's on the camera's screen. Shota and Hisashi were both looking at the television in awe. They hadn't ever thought what Izuku's vision would be like, but this is definitely not what they could have ever imagined. If you want to teach me how to fight, fine, but I'll never be able to truly focus on fighting. It's just not something my quirk will let me do. Izuku shrugged. I stopped wanting to be a hero when I was 7, that's when I realized I'd be a lot better at research and analysis. Shortly after I met you for the first time, I started looking at camera feeds, watching for when you were coming to my building. Over the course of a year, I learned how to track you through the city cameras and how to gain access to the HeroNet comms. By the time I made first contact with you as Datastream, I knew my way to help people, to save people, was by doing this, Izuku continued. I'm not a hero. I will never be a hero. But I don't need to be a hero anymore, not the same type you are, anyways. Netsu is going to make me a hero like him, one who works with information and who can take over an emergency situation. Like what you did at that apartment complex bombing the other week. Shota was wide-eyed, looking at Izuku. It all made sense. Izuku knew what his strengths were and knew that his weakness was big enough to really hinder him in the field. Yeah. I'll be an intelligence hero. I've come to really like doing this, too, so I'm not upset about not being able to be a regular hero anymore. Izuku smiled. I'll learn how to fight if you really want to teach me, but I'll always stand back and let a real hero take care of any fights I might get into. Hisashi tapped Shota's hand and then signed for him to take the tape off his mouth. Shota did. Baby, Hisashi said once the tape was gone, if you don't want to be a hero, that's fine. I think what you're doing as Datastream is still amazing and all but one hero I've spoken to about you loves you. With a devious grin, Izuku asked, Oh, was Endeavor talking shit about me again? Todoroki Shudo nervously poked his head out of his bedroom when he heard his father's angry yell and then the front door slam shut, his older sister frantically calling for him a moment later. He came out to see the entryway was on fire, so he used his ice to put it out. Fuyumi, what happened? He asked her. Natsuo was cackling in the kitchen, attracting Shudo's attention. When he got there, he saw what his brother was laughing at. In a box addressed to his father, was a 15-inch bright pink DLD and a note. I found this replica of you, Endeavor. The likeness is uncanny. Datastream. Shudo joined his brother in his laughter. While he still admired All Might, Datastream was his new favorite hero. Hey Shinso. Ready for another wonderful day of learning? Izuku asked sarcastically as he ran up to his friend. They had been friends for a few days now, and Izuku was trying to figure out when the best time to invite him to his place would be. Oh, I can't wait for all of the fun-filled entertainment that is sure to await us in this beautiful institution of learning, came Shinsu's equally sarcastic signed reply. You know, you can use your words with me, I promise not to bite, even if you accidentally wash my brain. It's filthy enough, I might even thank you for it, Izuku said, managing to get a laugh out of his friend. Meh, if you're not gonna talk, you have to listen to whatever I say, and I don't always make a lot of sense. Fine, Shinso hesitantly said. I'll talk but I won't ask questions. Good enough for now. I have a question for you in any case. Izuku turned to face his friend more fully and asked, Want to come to my place this weekend? My uncles want to meet you. Uncles? Yup, I live with my uncles. They've wanted to meet you since I first told them I had a friend. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck and said, I didn't have any friends at my last school, so making one was sort of a big deal? I could have sworn you said you live with your dad though. Shinso stated in his not-a-question way. No, I live with my Uncle Shota and my papa. They're married and they adopted me, but Uncle Shota is my actual uncle. I used to call my real dad Dad, so I refused to call my uncle Dad, bad memories and all that. And my papa's name is Hisashi, and my dad's name was Hisashi, so I can't call him Uncle Hisashi or Uncle Zashi, 'cause again, bad memories tied to the name. Understood. Makes sense. So, this weekend. I don't have any plans. With a grin Izuku said, Good. Bring workout clothes. Izuku led Shinso to the warehouse Shota used for his own personal training, where he was going to be training the two boys. Tiny green baby, we're almost there. Be warned, I haven't told him you're Eraserhead yet, so he's going to freak the F out. Just let me sleep, problem creep. Just tell him, I deal with enough hysterics from Zashi, I don't need that from the kid too. I haven't decided on my next Endeavor prank, so I have to keep myself amused somehow. Just let me sleep, Endeavor prank? Have you been pranking the number 2 hero? Teeny green baby, maybe. Okay, so Shinso, we're about to enter hell. Uncle is going to be a lot harder on you than me, 'cause, you actually want to be a hero. Don't take it personally. Izuku grinned a grin he had learned from Shota. One day you'll thank me for this. I have the feeling that I should just turn and run now, Shinso joked. Yeah, probably. Let's go. Izuku grabbed his friend's sleeve and dragged him inside. About time you got here, I was starting to think you got lost, Shota deadpanned, drawing Shinso's attention. Izuku could see the second the gears in. Shinso's head clicked into place and recognized his favorite hero. He turned to Izuku with wide eyes and yelled, You didn't tell me your uncle was Eraserhead. No, I did not, Izuku replied smugly. I wanted to see you do exactly this. And you did not disappoint. You did not disappoint. My nephew is more gremlin than anything. I told him to tell you, but his reply was, Where's the fun in that, or something like that. He pointed to a room off to the side. Get changed into the workout clothes and we'll get started. Dead. I'm dead. I have died. My existence no longer is on this mortal coil. I hurt in places I didn't even know I had. Shinso whined as he lay on the mat after the workout. Izuku, who hadn't bothered with nearly as much as Shinso had, looked up from the nap he had been pretending to take. You seem pretty lively for a corpse. Shut. Why do you get to nap and I have to be tortured? Oh, a question. Out loud. I'm so proud of you, Shinso. Izuku squealed in glee. And I already told you, I don't want to be a hero, so why would Uncle put me through the same level of training as you? I'm just here for some basic self-defense. What he means by that, Shota corrected, is that I noticed he pulled a muscle in his shoulder and I'm making him sit out the rest of the day. Shinso sat up at that and asked, You're hurt? Gasp. 2 whole questions. I'd come over there and hug you if you weren't such a sweaty mess right now, Izuku teased. Shinso leveled a half-hearted glare at Izuku and replied, You realize that if you don't actually reply to the question asked, my quirk won't trigger. I love your statement questions so much, but for real. I'm glad you feel comfortable enough to ask me questions. Ooh, Uncle Sho, can we do quirk training too? I have a feeling Shinso doesn't get the chance to practice his quirk, like, ever. Shota quirked an eyebrow at Shinso. You up for that? It's okay if you're not. Maybe another time? Shota nodded in agreement. You did go pretty hard today. We can do quirk training next time. For now, the both of you should hit the showers. We can go to a cafe before I take you home. Oh, are we going to that cat cafe? What's it called again? Coffee and toe beans? Izuku's eyes lit up. I have the best idea for my next prank. Daily Cat Facts. Thanks for signing up for Cat Facts. You will now receive fun daily facts about cats. Endeavor, what is this? Daily Cat Facts. Cats use their tails for balance and have nearly 30 individual bones in them. To cancel Daily Cat Facts, reply, cancel. Would you like to receive a cat fact every hour? Reply, TXT74927Jai. To cancel. Endeavor, TXT74927Jai. Cancel. Daily Cat Facts, command not recognized. You have a year subscription to Cat Facts and will receive fun hourly updates. In ancient Egypt, killing a cat was a crime punishable by death. Thanks for choosing Cat Facts. Endeavor, cancel. Shut the hell up. Daily Cat Facts, command not recognized. Please let us know you are human to cancel by completing the following sentence. Your favorite animal is the blank. Endeavor, dog. Daily Cat Facts, incorrect. Your favorite animal is the cat. You will continue to receive cat facts every hour. Endeavor, who is this? Are you human? It would be, your favorite animal is a cat. Not the Daily Cat Facts. Welcome to Cat Facts. Did you know that the first cat show was held in 1871 at the Crystal Palace in London? Meanwhile, Endeavor, shut up. I'm calling this number. If you don't stop. Daily Cat Facts. Thanks for texting Cat Facts. Remember, every time you text you will receive an instant cat fact. To cancel, reply Fulkashuberg 85443 Jeffkelbuv 6761 Trage. Endeavor Fulkashuberg 85443 Jeffkelbuv 6761 Trage. Daily Cat Facts. Command not recognized. Did you know there are about 100 distinct breeds of domestic cat? Plenty of furry love. Endeavor, stop. Daily Cat Facts. Cats bury their feces to cover their trails from predators. To cancel Cat Facts, reply, Fukel, Kerpichkovnareger 6789349057988990 Jkadgewajak. Endeavor, Fukel, Kerpichkovnareger 6789349057988990 Jkadgewajak. Daily Cat Facts. You want to cancel? Please answer the following question to confirm you're human. Your favorite animal is the blank. Endeavor, Kit. Daily Cat Facts. Incorrect. You said your favorite animal is the dog. You will continue to receive hourly cat facts. Omega. Endeavor lit his phone on fire and threw it against the wall so hard that it went straight through the wall and into the front room where Shota and Natsuo were doing their homework. That time Datastream again, he roared before stomping out of the room. Shota and Natsuo started laughing so hard they couldn't focus on their homework. If he ever had the chance, Shota wanted to kiss Datastream. Aizawa, your uncle really is intense, Shinso muttered gloomily. It's been days and I can still barely lift my arms. Izuku laughed. If you think that's bad, you should see me after sessions with my mentor. I swear my brain is mush for like 3 days after. You have a mentor that's not your uncle? Shinso asked. Yup, my quirk gives me an intelligence boost, so I've been training with Nedzu for a few years now. His brand of training helps, but also leave me a gibbering mess. Izuku turned and started walking backwards as he was excitedly talking. You should see some of the crazy awesome things he can do. When he took down my old school, it was like watching a master artist at work. Wait, what do you mean by, took down your old school? Oh, nothing? Forget I said anything. Izuku nervously rubbed the back of his head and just kept walking. Come on, we're going to be late, and Uncle said he was bringing Papa today. Letting Izuku change the topic, Shinso said, I thought we were doing quirk training today. Is your Papa a quirk counselor or something? Oh no, he's a pro hero like my uncle. Dunno if you'll recognize him. Though he looks really different when he's not on patrol. Most people don't realize who he is unless he slips and lets out some of his harisona. Izuku shrugged. Papa will likely slip before the end of the training session. I'm sure you'll figure out who he is before we leave. Can I take a guess? Shinso smirked. At Izuku's nod, he continued, I've always thought it'd be really funny to see Eraserhead with someone who was his total opposite, so I had always thought someone like Ms. Joke or Midnight. But knowing he's got a husband, now I'm thinking someone like Present Mike. I mean, you gotta admit that'd be funny. Tiny Green Baby, Shinso guessed Papa's hero name, so I'm gonna just tell him. Just let me sleep. How did he guess? Tiny Green Baby, and I quote, I've always thought it'd be really funny to see Eraserhead with someone who was his total opposite, so I had always thought someone like Ms. Joke or Midnight. But knowing he's got a husband, now I'm thinking someone like Present Mike. It's the loud blonde trope. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. I can hear, show, we're a trope now. Just let me sleep. No, you're a trope. I'm just the guy you latched onto who can't get free. Well, since you guessed correctly, I suppose I can tell you, Izuku laughed. Yeah, Present Mike is my papa. Holy sheet, Shinso whispered. I was just joking, trying to be funny. I didn't think he'd really be married to him. Snickering at his friend, Izuku opened the door to the warehouse, and they entered to see Hizashi poking at Shoyuta who was on the floor in his yellow sleeping bag. Come on, Sho, you can't just ignore me like this. I want attention. Shinso, meet my papa, Yamada Hizashi. Izuku laughed. Papa, this is Shinso Hitoshi. Please don't scare him off. You're adorable too. Ooh, what am I going to call you? You can't be the tiny purple baby, you're not tiny at all. Hizashi contemplated a name for a few moments before deciding on a name. I got it. You're the purple cat. Shinso raised an eyebrow. Purple cat? Well, yeah, you're purple and you're wearing a cat jacket. It has ears on the hood. Hizashi defended himself. I have a tiny green baby and a purple cat. I've been called worse, Shinso relented. So what are we doing today? He directed to Shota. You're going to use your quirk on Zashi while Zuku records Zashi doing stupid things for blackmail purposes later, Shota deadpanned. Shota? You can't just use the babies for your selfish gains. Hizashi complained. You're right, Shota amended. What I meant to say is you'll be using your quirk on Zashi while Zuku records him doing whatever you tell him to for totally educational training purposes. Hizashi glared at his husband for a moment before letting out a sigh of defeat. Whatever. Just make sure you get me to scream at him at least once, he deserves it. After an hour of quirk testing, and finding out that Shinso wasn't able to make someone use their quirks, Shota decided that it was time for physical training and Shinso went to change. Before Izuku could head over to the changing room, though, Zashi got his attention. Hey, Zuku, baby, what do you say to ducking out while Shota's busy with Shinso? Nedzu really wants to meet you in person. Hizashi gave him his bright smile. Plus, it'd give me some quality bonding time with my favorite tiny green baby. Sure, Izuku agreed. I'll just let Shinso know I'm heading out. Will we be back before they're done for the day? Hizashi shrugged. You never know when it comes to Nedzu. Tiny green baby, my papa wants to take me to meet someone, and I may or may not be back before your session with Uncle is over. Coffee addict? Oh, so you aren't going to be joining after all? Tiny green baby, what part of I'm not aiming to be a hero trips you people up? You and Uncle and even Papa all think I want to be a hero. Coffee addict, fine, have fun. If you aren't back by the time we're done, I'll still see you tomorrow, right? Tiny green baby, you know it. Okay, let's head out. Turning to Shota, Izuku called out, Bye, Uncle, see you when we're done. We're going to get ice cream. Zashi called out. Izuku was nervous. He shouldn't be nervous, he's known Nedzu for years. Nedzu was the one who had reached out to him initially when he first noticed Izuku's amateur attempts at hacking into the Hero Network sites. He showed Izuku how to be efficient, effective, creative, and he was staring at Izuku with those beady little eyes. Izuku shivered, not because he didn't like Nedzu, he was every bit as impressive in person as he was over their online chats, but he'd never been on the receiving end of that calculating stare. And his tail, it was swinging back and forth like a metronome, tick, tick, tick. Even Papa was affected by the tense atmosphere Nedzu let off. I think I'm going to wait outside. Yeah, actually, I'm going to my office and work on some grading. Have fun you too. And then he escaped. Coward, Izuku muttered, much to the amusement of Nedzu. The intense atmosphere lasted for only another minute or so, before Nedzu cracked and started laughing. All at once Izuku was able to relax, realizing that Nedzu had done that whole thing on purpose. Starry-eyed, Izuku asked, How did you do that? That was so cool. Practice, my dear child. Practice. That is just one thing I wish to teach you, now that I have you in person. But first. Nedzu got onto the table and walked to the edge and looked at Izuku up close. Have you finished the reading I assigned you? Yes. Izuku nodded enthusiastically. It was fascinating. I already have some ideas on how it can work, but I haven't gotten around to trying any of them. Then that's the first thing we should work on. Nedzu grinned. To be honest, I was a little disappointed in how long it took you to locate your mother, and not just because of what you overlooked. It took you over an hour to locate her cell phone signal. Izuku looked down with an embarrassed expression. Japan is a big country? Indeed, but this shows you were searching manually. Nedzu pointed out. As fast as your brain is, doing things manually defeats the whole point of a quirk like yours. So, today we will start by creating a code that will locate, isolate, and respond to a particular cell phone reception. Izuku's eyes lit up in unholy glee. I have just the person to try this out on. The snow glows white on the mountain tonight. Not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation. And it looks like I'm the queen. Endeavor tried to change the channel, but every channel he tried played the same song. That stupid Ice Queen song from that pre-Quirk Disney movie. Giving up, he just turned off the television in his office. As soon as the television was off, it turned itself back on and continued to play. Getting up from his desk, careful not to lose his temper while in his agency, he left the office to try to get work done in a different room. As soon as he walked out of his office, every television, radio, and cell phone in the new room started the song right where his television had left off. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I've tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Datastream, he growled out, knowing full well that this had to be the product of that infuriating 2-bit hack. I know you can hear me, what do you want with me? Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. Endeavor didn't get an answer from the elusive hacker, but the song kept playing on repeat, no matter where he was, all day. While out on patrol, any television he passed would start to show Elsa singing in the snow as she created her ice castle, civilian phones would all start playing the song, any radio would start to play it as well. It's funny how some distance makes everything seem small. And the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do. To test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Within a few hours, everyone in the city knew that the song meant that Endeavor was near. Civilians would look up in anticipation of seeing the flame hero, while criminals and villains alike would instantly stop what they were doing and run for cover, knowing that they were likely to die a fiery death if they were spotted today. Let it go, let it go. I am one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand and here I stay. Let the storm rage on. Meanwhile, at the Todoroki estate, Natsuo and Shota were enraptured by the news coverage of this beautiful event. Shota knew instantly that it had to be the work of Datastream, and while he had no idea as to why he enjoyed tormenting his father, he was quickly becoming this person's biggest fan. Shota was working on his homework, and he heard his phone start playing the song, and 2 minutes later the front door opened and Endeavor came home. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around. And one thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back, the past is in the past. In another part of the country, a man with burns covering most of his body was watching the news and came across the story of the song that followed Endeavor all day and decided that he had a new hero. Whoever had managed to do this was a god among men. Let it go, let it go. When I'll rise like the break of dawn. Let it go, let it go. That perfect girl is gone. Here I stand in the light of day. Let the storm rage on. The cold never bothered me anyway. Okay, I'll bite, Shota said as they ate dinner that night, with the news on in the background. What's the whole reasoning behind your feud with Endeavor? Don't like him, was Izuku's simple reply. Hisashi and Shota exchanged a glance. Is there a reason, baby? Hisashi asked. Izuku looked up from the katsudon he was happily eating. Oh, yeah, but it's kind of stupid. When both Hisashi and Shota gestured for him to continue, he did. Okay, so my dad had a fire quirk, and Keisubakugu has an explosion quirk. I was like, 8? Maybe? And I had a bit of an aversion to fire at the time. Understandable, Hisashi said. Yeah, so one day I saw Endeavor in the streets, and I just wanted to talk for a few minutes. You know, he was one of those heroes I thought maybe could help me get over my fear of fire. Just having a conversation with him, while knowing he'd be sporting those stupid flames he always has, I thought it'd help. Izuku took a bite of rice and happily chewed. This is so good, Papa. I love your katsudon. Hisashi's grin was turned all the way up to, thank you, Tiny green baby. But you can't change the subject that easily. With a pout, Izuku continued his story. Not only did he ignore me, but he also pushed me down when I stubbornly kept following him. There was a singed handprint on my coat, and Mom locked me in my room for a week because of the damaged coat. Shota could feel himself about to lose control of his quirk, so he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Okay, so I may have some ideas for future pranks. Izuku turned his million-watt smile to Shota and said, "Thanks. Nedzu is helping me too." Shota wanted to find out who Datastream was. He needed to find out who he was. Not only because he was having a great time laughing at his father's frustration, but because he wanted them to know just how much danger they'd be in if Endeavor ever got his hands on them. Who is Datastream? Shota typed into the search bar. In connection-oriented communication, a data stream is a sequence of digitally encoded coherent signals used to transmit or receive information that is in the process of being transmitted. A data stream is a set of extracted information from a data provider. Interesting but not useful. Shota kept at it for a few hours, trying every way he could to figure it out with no success. Until a window popped up on his screen. Datastream, you're looking for me, little Todoroki? Shota, while you're real. Datastream, yes? At least I think I am. Poke self, yeah or not, I didn't feel that. Shota, I wanted to thank you for everything you're doing to my father. My brother and I are greatly enjoying everything you're doing to him. But I also wanted to warn you. Datastream, oh, no need for the warning. I know he's going to flambe my but if he ever finds out who I am. It's a game for me at this point. Can I make his lose his sheet in public before he finds me? There's only one way to find out. Shota, would information on his personal life help you? Datastream, maybe? Depends on what you have, really. I can. Baby, you're crying. I know you're in the stream, but can you come out and tell me what's wrong? Izuku pulled himself out of the stream to find he did have fresh tears running down his face. He had a new reason for hating Endeavor, and he was going to bring the giant trash fire down. I just spoke with Endeavor's youngest son. He's not just mean to civilians, Papa. Izuku sniffed and rubbed away his tears. I am going to end his career. Oh, baby, Papa wrapped Izuku in a hug and ran his fingers through his hair. He abuses his son and calls it training, and got his wife locked in a mental hospital after she snapped from the abuse. The tears wouldn't stop, no matter how much he rubbed at his eyes. Shota was living in much the same conditions Izuku was in. He had to get him out. Did he tell you all this? Papa asked. No, Izuku said. He only told me that his dad was often angry and that he was quirkist. I could see him through the camera in his computer, and it seemed he was hiding something, so I went digging. Papa pressed a kiss to Izuku's forehead and kept his hold on him tight. I'm not sure what you're going to do, but I fully support it. Bring him down, and if there's anything I can do to help, you let me know, okay baby? Yeah. Thank you, Papa. Tiny green baby, Tsuka. Detective to Data. Good to hear from you again. Wait, did you change my name? Again? Tiny green baby, I did. Greater than over equal to less than over equal to. Do you like it? Wait, no, that's not why I'm texting. I have a case I need you to look into, and a hero I need you to arrest. Detective? Oh? Tiny green baby, Endeavor. I'll provide directions for you to find the information. I know you can't use what I directly give you, since I don't have a license yet. But you know everything I have is accurate. Detective T, what has he done? I'll open the investigation, but what am I investigating? Tiny green baby, everything you need is in your email. But short version is he's an abusive father-husband and may have killed his oldest son. In other news, a reporter said over the television that had turned itself on in Enji's room while he was working on a report. Number 2 Prohero Endeavor has made a huge donation to multiple charities today. Among these are the National Battered Wives Foundation, the Center for Abused Children, and the anti-discrimination group All Quirks Are Equal. Enji's blood ran cold as he listened to the report. He hadn't ever told anyone about that, well, no one that he hadn't already had on payroll. Datastream, Surprise Beach. I hope you're ready to fall. I'm dragging your butt to hell. Giant trash fire, What did I ever do to you to deserve this treatment? Did you change my name? Datastream, is that your stupid question of the day? And you don't need to have done anything to me to deserve this. The fact that you did this is what makes you deserve it. Giant trash fire, how did you find out about this? Datastream, funny story. So I'm working on improving some of my hacking skills. I know, what? Data's not already the best out there? Sigma, Fife. And you did something to me a few years ago that ticked me off. And now that I have the skills to get back at you, while gesturing to everything. Anywho, personal grudges aside, I found your information. All of it. And I have a lock on it so you can't blank the data, so don't bother trying. I've informed quite a few people. I'll be surprised if you manage to keep your license after this. The trial was 2 months later. Todoroki Enji was stripped of his Prohero license and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Todoroki Fuyumi was appointed guardianship of her younger brothers. Todoroki Rei, however, after an evaluation was not deemed mentally stable so would have to remain in the hospital. However, her treatment plan had changed, and she was likely to start making progress in her recovery. Hadelsa, thank you. Datastream, you're very welcome. I was in a sheet place before too. I had to help. Hadelsa, can I ask you a personal question? Datastream, sure, but I might not answer. Hadelsa, how old are you? Some of the things you did to my father make me think you're my age, but then you also did all this, so I also think you might be older? Datastream, should I tell you? Or should I make you wait? Decisions. Underscore. Hadelsa, I think you're my age. Datastream, I'll be turning 13 soon. Hadelsa, good. Now it won't feel so weird when I tell you this. I think I have a crush on you. Datastream, underscore, confused face? Underscore. 0 underscore. Datastream.exe has stopped working. Hadelsa, did I scare you off? I'm sorry. Tiny green baby, no, you didn't. I was just surprised. Not in a bad way. Hot Elsa, tiny green baby? I thought you were Datastream? Tiny green baby, sheet, I changed my name back on accident. Oops. 3 years later. Are you ready for the exam? Izuku asked Hitoshi. They'd been friends for 3 years now, and Uncle Shoyuta had been training Hitoshi for the entire. Hitoshi was almost as good with Uncle's capture scarf as the hero himself was, and Hitoshi's old bullies knew that they would get a serious beatdown if they ever tried to start anything with the purple-haired boy. Not that Hitoshi ever really needed to hit anyone anymore. A simple glare and dark grin was enough to remind them all of how far he'd come. As ready as I'll ever be, Hitoshi replied. He wasn't going to be taking the general admittance exam. No, Hitoshi was coming in as a recommendation student. Uncle Shoyuta had discussed it with Nedzu a while back, and they had agreed that even though he was a teacher at the school, Shota's student deserved a chance at a recommendation spot. Hitoshi still needed to pass the exams, though. If he couldn't, then he would be forced to take the general admittance exam. You'll do great, Toshi. Izuku hugged him and gave a quick kiss to the cheek, causing Hitoshi to blush like crazy. Over the past 3 years, the two had gotten a lot closer, and they would flirt constantly, and have little touches, cheek kisses, they will link pinkies even, but neither has openly confessed to the other, something Izuku knows drives his Uncle Shoyuta up the wall, while Papa just thinks it's cute. If you see Shudo there, tell him I said good luck, okay? Izuku asked. Sure, that won't be weird or anything. Some random kid he's never met walks up to him. Hey, my friend says good luck, he quipped. Maybe you should just text him instead? But I want you to do it. You've never met each other and I'm sure you'd get along. Izuku pouted at him. Please, Hito? Ugh, fine, just stop with the eyes, you know that should be classified as a deadly weapon. He had a look of mild terror right before Izuku turned his famous sunshine smile on him. The brightness. It burnness. Izuku laughed and lightly shoved Hitoshi. Oh, go on and take your silly exam, Hito, I'll be watching you. Don't mess up. Aizawa's right, you are a problem creep, Toshi joked. Always watching us. You'll thank me one of these days, Izuku laughed and walked off. Izuku was already promised a place at the school, but not in any specific course. Due to his multitasking abilities and quick processing speeds, Izuku already had his high school diploma, and had taken plenty of classes on coding and computer programming. He would be attending UA as Nedzu's personal student and would spend most of his time in the 1A classroom with his uncle observing the hero course students. Izuku made his way to the teacher's lounge, waiting for the exam to start. His uncle was going to be at the exam to watch how the prospective new students were, but his papa was here getting a bit of lesson planning done. "Hey baby, wish your boyfriend good luck?" Papa teased. Blushing, Izuku retorted, "He's not my boyfriend." "Not yet maybe. Give it time," he laughed. "Ugh, Papa, we're not dating. And besides, if I was going to be dating anyone, Shota had first dibs. He told me he liked me 3 years ago." Izuku blushed at the memory. Shota hadn't been exactly subtle about liking him then, and none of that has changed. "Oh, I thought it was Shota you had gone to wish good luck," Papa said. "You know he's at the exam." Blushing even harder, Izuku said, "Well, yeah, of course I know that. It's just, we still haven't met in person? And it's weird. You'll never meet him in person if you don't, meet him in person," Papa pointed out, looking at Izuku over his yellow glasses. "Don't you dare block the signal or you're grounded." At that, Papa took out his phone and placed a call. "No, don't call Uncle," Izuku pleaded. "What do you want, Zashi? The exam's about to start." Uncle answered the phone. "Did you know Zuzu still hasn't met the Todoroki boy in person?" Papa said. "And I don't need to," Izuku said, clearly cutting into their call. "Zuzu, but out of the call. Keep the Todoroki boy after the exam so he can meet Zu." "Okay, he's here with his sister, so they'll both get to meet him," Uncle agreed. "And Aizu, you really should meet him. Hitoshi told him you said good luck and he blushed so hard he caught fire." He did? "Oh, that's adorable," Izuku whispered, pulling up the footage and watching as Shudo's left side did indeed catch fire. "You go to school together?" Shudo asked the purple-haired teen, Shinso. His mentor was Eraserhead, but Shudo wasn't too sure that mentor was the right term. They looked too similar, and from what he could tell they used the same fighting style. He was sure they were father and son. "Yeah, we met during first year." This green kid comes in, a pure ball of anxiety, and gets sat behind the kid with the villainous quirk, and then tells off some bullies. "It was beautiful," Shinso said with a fond smile. Shudo tilted his head in confusion. Villainous quirk? Was the kid a villain? Wait, no, that still wouldn't have made the quirk itself villainous. "Why do you say it was villainous?" Shinso was looking at him with wide eyes. That's what everyone always said." That came out as a whisper. "Well, everyone always said my father's quirk was heroic, but he's no hero," Shudo argued. "The quirk doesn't determine if a person is a hero or a villain." Shudo shrugged. "Talk like that is quirk discrimination, and it's annoying. Are you okay?" Shinso had started to tear up, but at Shudo's question he wiped his eyes. Yeah, I'm good. Aiza's the only person my age who has ever said my quirk wasn't villainous before." "Thank you, I needed to hear that from someone else." He grinned softly at Shudo. "What is your quirk? If you don't mind me asking, that is." "Brainwashing. I can control anyone who verbally replies to a question I ask," he replied hesitantly, as if he was looking for Shudo to change his mind about his quirk being villainous. Shudo's eyebrows went up. "That's actually a pretty good quirk for heroics. Can't see how you could cause property damage with that, and casualties would be next to nothing. You could easily defuse situations before they escalate, handle hostage exchanges, even get a villain to turn themselves in. Why would anyone say it's villainous?" At that moment, a green boy came up behind Shinso and hugged him. "I told you I wasn't the only one who saw the good in your quirk, Hito." Turning to Shudo, the green boy said, "Hey there, Shudo. I saw your time on the obstacle course. You did great." "Izuku." The green boy, Izuku, nodded with a bright smile. Shudo's blush returned, and his hair caught fire again, causing Izuku to giggle. "It's nice to meet you in person, Shudo." "Too bright," Shudo said, at the exact same time Shinso said it. The who looked at each other and Shinso grinned. "I usually have a pair of sunglasses with me when I hang out with Aizu to protect myself from that sunshine grin. I just may have to start doing that," Shota agreed. Staring directly at the sun is very damaging. Izuku puffed out his cheeks in annoyance. Just because your smiles aren't as bright doesn't make them any less dazzling. Maybe I should wear, I don't know, what blocks out dazzle. Shinso laughed softly and ruffled Izuku's hair. Nice try, Aizu. You're too pure to come up with something too biting. Shota looked at the two and frowned slightly. I suppose my crush is entirely one-sided. He sighed. How long have you two been together? Both boys froze in their tracks and blushed brightly. We're not. Oh. Shoto's eyes lit up with hope again. So I still have a chance. I don't know what you're talking about, Shoto. Izuku squeaked out. I have to go. Izuku tried to run off, but Shinso just laughed and hooked his arm around Izuku's waist and dragged him back. Nope, no running away. Besides, aren't you the one who said we were going to go to Beans after the exam? Shoto tilted his head. Beans? Izuku smiled and said, yeah, coffee and toe beans. It's the weirdest name ever, but it's a cat cafe, and most of the cats there will let you play with their feet, and kitty feet are cute little toe beans. Shinso was nodding sagely. It is known. Kitty feet have toe beans. Do you want to come with us, Shoto? Izuku asked. I'm sure my uncle won't mind one more. Tiny green baby, do my eyes deceive me? Is that Bakugu in the hero exam? Unfortunately, his parents petitioned the HPSC and they removed the mark on his record disqualifying him from a hero course. If he scores high enough, he will have to be admitted, regardless of what we know he has done. I'll place him in Aizawa's class, though, so he'll likely be expelled. Tiny green baby, understood. That beach just got 70 points on the exam. He got the top score. Rat God, I apologize, Izuku. The weeks leading up to the first day of class saw Izuku in a bad mood. Everyone knew why he was upset, and no one held it against him. Shoyuta constantly found him on the roof of the apartment building when he was on the way home from patrol, and the first few times he was worried. Zuku, it's late. What are you doing up here? Shoyuta asked, finding him on the roof for the third night in a row. Same thing I used to do, uncle, Izuku replied. Haven't really had a reason to do it for the last few years, though. He let his smile turn wry as he looked at his uncle. Looking at the night sky always used to help me put my head on right. Walk me through that? The universe is so big. Millions upon millions of stars, galaxies, planets, unknown possibilities out there. With everything that's out there, we're just a tiny, insignificant piece of the grand scheme. Everything is just so big once you think about things outside of your own self. My problems are small in comparison to everything else out there. He turned to Shoyuta and said wryly, seeing Bakugu again will be like getting my teeth kicked in, but there are worse things that could happen. Come here, kid. Shoyuta pulled Izuku in for a hug and rested his head on Izuku's curls. You know I won't let him touch you, right? Izuku nodded his head, with his face buried in Shota's capture scarf. Shoto and Hito won't let him near me either. They both know about our history. Izuku's whisper was just barely audible to Shoyuta. If he gives you any trouble at all, I'll expel him, Shoyuta promised. You won't be able to, Izuku muttered. I've seen the updated paperwork they gave Nedzu. He has to keep Bakugu. If he allows you to expel Bakugu, then Hito will be removed from the course as well. The HPSC wants him to be a hero for his quirk, and for the same reason, they don't want Hito to be a hero. Shoyuta could feel the rage building. Those bastards were using his student and his nephew against him to make sure an abuser made it into the hero ranks. They were, and are still, upset that we got Endeavor imprisoned, Izuku said, still barely audible. Since Bakugu finished his 3 years of anger management therapy, and all of the other court-issued consequences, they expunged his record. He'll be able to start over completely. He'll be free to be the second coming of Endeavor. Izuku nodded in his scarf. Shoyuta cursed to himself. He was going to have to personally work with this entitled prick to try to get his head out of his, but in the 3 years leading up to graduation, Aizu was hiding. That's the only way Hitoshi could think of to describe it. He had an idea of where the gremlin was, But there was no way in hell Hitoshi was going to barge into the principal's office to drag his adorable green boyfriend to class. Especially since he was not technically a hero student. He was Nezu's personal student, so he had every valid reason to be in the principal's office. But that doesn't change the fact that he was still hiding. There was a blonde kid in the seat directly in front of the one Hitoshi was assigned, and reading the seating chart he knew that kid was the Bakugo Katsuki that Aizu and Aizawa both warned him about. He decided to wait in the back, near Shoto's desk so they could talk without risking the blonde kid hearing. Hitoshi watched with a dark amusement as a blue-haired kid approached Bakugo and started complaining to him about being respectful and keeping his feet off the desk. Hitoshi tuned them out when he saw Shoto enter the class. "Good morning, Hitoshi. Where's Zuku?" Shoto asked him when he got closer. "Hiding. Likely in Nezu's office. He better show up to class on time though, we all know Aizawa's not going to do a normal day." "Oh." Shoto's head tilt is so adorable, Hitoshi felt his cheeks blush. He was like a little kitten. "So not fair. Yeah, I hope you weren't looking forward to the orientation, because it's not going to happen. Tiny green baby, stop giving away Uncle's secrets, Hito. Come to class and stop me, then, Aizu," Hitoshi said to his phone, and held it up so Shoto could see he wasn't just talking to himself. Problem Creep is listening in through the cameras again. "Why do you call him that?" "Mainly because that's what his uncle calls him when he's doing his whole, 'I'm watching you' thing," Hitoshi shrugged. "Is Aizawa really his uncle? They don't look or act anything alike." Hitoshi chuckled at that. "Yeah, they are blood-related. I had a hard time believing it at first myself. Aizu is a bright ray of sunshine, and his uncle is like a rainy Monday. In the middle of December." "Tiny green baby, I'm telling Uncle you called him a rainy Monday. He says that as if that will change anything." Hitoshi glanced at the time. "We should get in our seats before Aizawa shows up. He'll be upset if we're not ready for class on time." Izuku was already out on the field when his uncle showed up. He had known, of course, that Uncle Shoyudo was going to be doing a Quirk assessment test today, so he had been out here setting up the tests instead of going to class. Yeah, Hito might be right that he was hiding from Kaken, Bakugo. He needed to stop calling him Kaken, but he was doing what Uncle asked him to. The fact that Izuku had asked Uncle to give him something to do means nothing. "Izuku, is everything ready?" Uncle asked as he got to where Izuku was waiting and ruffled his hair. "Yup," he replied, Sunshine's smile turned all the way up. "All of the tests are ready, and I've got 20 ball here prepped and on standby to be thrown, and a drone on standby to collect them, even the ones that are going to be destroyed." Uncle raised an eyebrow. "Tell me which ones will be destroyed?" Turning his smile into a sharp grin, Izuku replied, "Kaminari Denki, Quirk electrification. He's going to try to put a little bit of spark into his throw, and while it will work, the electricity will short out the ball's circuitry and cause a small explosion. Dead ball. Ashido Mina, Quirk acid. She'll try something with the acid, and it'll eat away at the ball's mass, making it lighter and able to go further, but again, the circuitry will be fried, and will explode. Uraraka Ochako, Quirk zero gravity, that ball will fly into the sun. Kirishima Ijiro, Quirk harden, and Ida Tenya, Quirk engine. They'll both hit the ball hard enough to do some serious damage to it. Majima-sensei might be able to save those two ball, though." He hesitated and then said quietly, "Bakugo Katsuki, Quirk explosion. That ball will be lucky to make it to the ground. The explosion will throw it far but will also cause a secondary explosion of the circuitry. It's likely to burn up before it hits the ground." Uncle pulled him in for a quick one-armed hug, letting him go shortly after. "He's got a reputation to keep after all, can't let the students know he likes one kid. You going to be okay seeing him again?" Izuku scowled at the ground. "I think so. I mean, don't think for a hot second that I'm going to be more than a meter away from you at any given time. Hito's not quite as badass as you are yet, and Shudo's too pure to really understand why I'm scared of Bakugo. If you're going to cling to me like that, I'm going to have to tell them you're my nephew. That okay with you?" "Yeah. I'm going to introduce myself as Aizawa Izuku anyways, so the relation is going to be obvious." Izuku shrugged. "Besides, I didn't get into UA on your say-so, and I'm not a hero student, so no one can claim favoritism. Izuku leaned against his uncle for a moment. It's taking them a long time to get out here. Hitoshi and Shuto are almost here, but the rest just barely got to the locker rooms. Izuku let loose one of the evil grins that was a copy of his uncle's. Tell them you're expelling the last place. With his own evil grin, Uncle said, Can you believe there are people out there who don't see how we're related? Uncle chuckled and continued, Who's going to be last? If you're right, I'll consider it. Oh, it's going to be either Hagakure Toru, Quirk Invisibility, or Mineta Minoru, Quirk Pop-Off. If it wasn't for all the training you've put Hito through and all the inventive ways he's learned to get people to respond to him, I'd say he'd be in the running for last place too. None of them have quirks that can really help them in these tests. Jiro Kyuka, Quirk Earphone Jack, is another in the running for last, but she might be able to augment her grip test with her earphones, and she looks like she's faster than Hagakure. You can't pick that many, just choose one. Mineta Minoru. Final answer. Uncle looked into the distance and saw Hitoshi and Shuto nearing them. Who's going to be first? Either Yaoyorozu Momo, Quirk Creation, or Shuto. She's got the perfect quirk for this test, so if she knows how to use it right, it'll be her. If she doesn't use it right, then it'll be Shuto. I want it to be Shuto, but I really think it'll be Yaoyorozu. If your predictions are right, we'll have katsudon for dinner. Izuku laughed at that. Nice try, Uncle, we're having katsudon. Anyways, Papa said so. Ooh, katsudon? Hitoshi said as he got close enough to hear the end of the conversation and gave Izuku a hug. Zashi makes kick but katsudon. Can I come? I'll ask Papa. Shuto looked back and forth between Uncle and Izuku. I really don't see any resemblance. Are you sure you're related? Izuku giggled sweetly while Uncle chuckled darkly. Shuto narrowed his eyes and gestured to them. See? Nothing alike. Oh, Hito, Papa said you can come to dinner. Shuto, you're invited too. Hitoshi cheered while Shuto hummed a bit disappointed. My sister was going to make cold soba for dinner tonight. I'll rain check. Sure. Shuto blushed as Izuku turned his smile on him. By this time the rest of the class was starting to show up. Uncle Shuto's expression changed from his uncle look to his teacher look, and he gave the class his best disappointed stare. It took you almost 15 minutes to get here. That is unacceptable. From today on, you will be here within 5 minutes. While Izuku was being quiet, he could feel the gazes of the other hero students, along with the burning glare of Kabakugu. Izuku, introduce yourself so these hellions will stop staring. Okay. Izuku turned his smile all the way up to 11 and waved at the class. My name is Aizawa Izuku. You'll see me in nearly all of your classes, but I'm not a 1A student. I'm the principal's personal student, and I specialize in analysis, observation, coordination, research, and strategy. The better I get to know you, the better I'll be able to guide you in the field. You, Deku, I don't take orders from little sheets like you. Bakugu growled out. Izuku flinched and took a half step back towards Uncle, but said, You don't have to, Kabakugu. But you'll likely be docked points in an exercise if it's meant to be one I'm guiding. Additionally, my nephew's name is not Deku. Call him that again and you'll be in detention, Uncle reprimanded. Nephew? Several students exclaimed. Yes, nephew, Uncle repeated. And I am more than a little protective of him, so if any of you give him trouble, you will be answering to me. Understood? The class all nodded their heads. Good. Now, on to the reason we're out here. You kids have been doing these since junior high, too, right? Physical fitness tests where you weren't allowed to use your quirks. The country still uses averages taken from results of students not using their quirks. It's not rational, especially for heroes in training. Bakugu, Uncle looked at the growling blonde who still hadn't stopped glaring at Izuku. In middle school, what was your score for a ball toss? 67 meters. Then, try doing it with your quirk. You can do whatever you want so long as you stay in the circle. Hurry up. Give it all you've got. Bakugu caught the ball Uncle threw at him and got into the circle. Anything goes, huh? His smirk turned sharp, and he pulled back and threw the ball with a shout of, Die! And set off a massive explosion. Uncle looked at his reader and raised an eyebrow when was shown instead of an actual score. 1 SEC, Izuku muttered. The pieces are still falling. A moment later, the score 705.2 meters showed up, and Uncle showed it to the class. Know your maximum first. That is the most rational way to form the foundation of a hero. So manly! Kirishima exclaimed while punching his fists together. I'm getting pumped up. Awesome. This looks like fun. Izuku had to turn away when he heard that comment from Ishido, as he knew he was going to be sporting the same grin as his uncle. And sure enough, Uncle Shoyuta grinned and put an end to the excitement. It looks fun, you say? So, you all were planning to spend your 3 years here having a good time while making friends? What happened to being a hero? Uncle's tone and expression made the entire group fall silent. All right then, new rule. Whoever gets the lowest score, Uncle paused for the dramatic effect, will be instantly expelled. What? But that's not fair. Uraraka complained, but that was instantly shut down by Uncle while Izuku did his best to not let the rest of them see him laughing. Unfair? Then what about natural disasters? Massive accidents? Or how about villain attacks? Uncle's creepy but grin was intensified as he lifted his hair out of his face. All kinds of unfairness are hurled at heroes on the daily, and it's our job to turn that unfairness around. If you were expecting to have a fun-filled, normal high school experience, then you're sorely mistaken. For the next 3 years of your life in this school, UA is going to be throwing one hardship after another at you. Plus Ultra, and all that stuff. Just like Izuku had predicted, once all of the tests had been completed, Yaoyorozu got first place, and Mineta got last. Mineta, I was not joking. You barely gave any effort in these tests, only trying on one. I don't see any potential in you, so you're expelled. The tiny purple boy started crying and pointed to Izuku. It's not fair. What about him? He didn't even participate. He should be expelled. The only reason he's even here is because he's your nephew. Izuku raised an eyebrow at him and reminded him, I'm not in the hero course. Technically, I already graduated high school. I'm literally only here because Principal Nedzu is my sensei and it's easier for him to teach me here. Deku's FING useless, Bakugu snarled. Bakugu, that'll be a detention tomorrow. His name is not Deku. I warned you, Uncle said darkly. Hey there, baby. Papa hugged Izuku tightly and planted a kiss on his curls. How was the first day? Did Shoyuta expel anyone? Izuku giggled as he hugged his papa just as tightly. Some kid named Mineta, he got last place on the Quirk assessment test. He kept staring at all the girls in class and making lewd comments about them, too, so it was really only a matter of time before he was expelled anyways. I'm sure if either you or Auntie saw him, you'd give him the boot too. I certainly would have, baby. Turning to Hitoshi and giving him a hug as well, he asked, What place did you get, my purple cat? 8th, but it was close, Hitoshi answered. I was able to get some help on a few of the tests, but for most of them I was able to just power through it quirkless. I was one of the last each round, so I always knew around where I'd land. Izuku was able to accurately predict each round's ranking, Shoyuta said proudly, causing Izuku to turn bright red. Really? That's great. How long did it take you to make the predictions? Well, I already had a general idea of the final rankings before any of the tests, Izuku admitted, but as everyone stepped up to the tests, I was able to factor what I knew about their quirks from their registry and their level of confidence, and then added in a bit of what I could see of their personalities and, maybe about 2 minutes before the individual tests started, I sent the predictions to Uncle before each one. Hitoshi was staring at him in awe. You know, every time I think you can't get any more amazing, you do stuff like that, he said with a soft smile and a blush. Hito, you can't just say things like that. Hito laughed at that. Oh, by the way, can I get a copy of Aizawa's entrance to class today? That was the funniest thing I have ever seen, and I swear I almost said myself trying not to laugh. Oh, Papa asked. What did he do? I want to see. Izuku giggled as he sent the video to both Hito and Papa. Uncle's chat name should be changed to Futuremuth. He was caterpillaring and it was amazing. Izuku was in class the next day, sitting in the now vacant seat left behind by Mineta, behind Hito, but in front of Shoto. Some of the other students had filed in, like Ida and Azui, but there was one that Izuku really wanted to talk to. Kaminari Denki. Kaminari had the quirk he had originally been thought to have. His mother had been upset when all he could do was see the electrical signals. And to be honest, Izuku had been a little disappointed as well until he realized what he could do. But Kaminari, he could control electricity. How cool was that? Well, okay, yeah, he was using it all wrong, but that's one of the reasons why Izuku was in this class. Analysis was his thing, and he wanted to analyze this boy and help him reach the potential he could see in him. Ugh, why is he so late? Izuku complained quietly, but still loud enough to where Hito and Shoto heard him. Who? Shoto asked. Are you waiting for someone else? Yes, I want to pick apart Kaminari, but he hasn't even reached the train station. He's going to be so close to late, and I won't have time to pick his quirk apart. Izuku whined. Shoto, let me pick yours apart instead? Shoto glanced to Hito, trying to see if he should be worried or not. Yes, you should fear the gremlin, Hito confirmed. He picked my quirk apart and put it back together a while ago, and it was an experience. 10/10 would recommend the results. Would not do it again, it was uncomfortable as heck, but would recommend getting it done. Shoto looked back at Izuku, who had on a smirk learned from Netsu. Okay, he nodded. What do I need to do? Nothing, Izuku replied sweetly. Well, nothing yet. The first step is getting your permission to dive into your health, medical, and quirk records. Thank you for agreeing to this, he added with an anticipatory giggle. So now I'm looking through all of your records, looking to see any patterns, anything that stands out. Once I have that basic part done, I'll compile a list of actual questions I want to ask and experiments I want to run. I know your ice is incredible. I saw you use it in the entrance exam, but I need to see just how much fun I can have with your fire. I don't use it, Shoto said with a hint of steel in his voice. I know you don't, Izuku answered easily. And I think your reasoning, while valid, is dumb as hell. He turned the full power of his smile on Shoto and said sweetly, this is part of the break it apart process. Don't worry, I'll have you using your fire before the sports festival. You know why I don't use it, but you still want to make me use it? Shoto asked. Well, yeah. I mean, Izuku paused for a moment and turned his smile to something somewhat sad. My father had a fire quirk, too, you know. And Bakugu has an explosion quirk, aka a fire quirk. I have a mild fear of fire quirks now, and I'd like to get over that. He looked Shoto in the eyes and asked, will you help me with that? This will help both of us. Taking Shoto's hand in his, he dealt the finishing blow to the discussion. I trust you not to hurt me, Shoto. You're going to make the poor boy catch fire again, Aizu, Hito joked, poking Shoto, preventing the smoke that was rising from turning into flames. Shoto, that was part of his process of breaking you apart. Super effective, and he'll have you using your quirk in no time and feeling okay with it at that. Trust him. This will be good for you. He did this to you? Shoto had a bit of hesitation in his voice as he asked Hitoshi his question. Yeah. He's a manipulative sheet, learned it from Netsu, I bet. Izuku nodded and Hito continued. He brought up all the reasons I have for being insecure about my own quirk and psychologically ripped me apart and put me back together, stronger. I don't have panic attacks every time I use my quirk now, and I almost never go nonverbal anymore. Shoto looked at Izuku with wide eyes. And Izuku's reply grin was terrifying. Izuku was in the teacher's lounge. He had managed to steal his uncle's sleeping bag and was curled up under his papa's desk napping, while Snipe kept shooting him concerned glances. Or at least that's what it looked like. In reality, he was observing Class 1 as battle trials while staying away from the idiot that is Yagi Tashinori. Izuku could feel his IQ drop. Just by breathing the same air as him. There had only been a handful of heroes who had blatantly ignored him as Datastream, and Yagi was one of them. The few times Izuku had reached out to him to help, the casualties and property damage had been ridiculous, all because he not only ignored Izuku's help, but he actually did the opposite. Izuku had stopped trying. All Might was a good hero, yes, and Izuku respected him as a hero. But he was dumb as sheet, and Izuku had come to the conclusion that the reason he worked alone was because he was too stupid to know a decent strategy when he heard one. His plan was always smash, and let the pieces fall where they would. Izuku shared his uncle's thoughts on the moron. Speaking of the moron, he was reading from a script. A freaking script. He should know the scenario for today's battle trial, since he was the one who wrote it. Ugh, Izuku could teach heroics better than Yagi could, and Izuku wasn't even a hero. Well, okay, he did have his provisional intelligence license, but that didn't count. As the groups were sorted out, by lots, seriously? And the first two teams got into position, Izuku got his notepad ready. He had 19 pages for the individual students, and then another 10 for how they worked as a team. One student would be taking the battle trial by themselves due to the uneven number of students, and Izuku was so glad it was Shota. The boy was awesome, and he didn't think there was anyone in this class who could really keep up with him, aside from Hitoshi. Well, Bakugo could probably match him for raw power. The first round was between Kaminari and Jairu, against Kirishima and Shoji. Izuku was curious about how this would pan out. Jairu would be able to hear and blast Shoji away, and Kaminari could easily handle Shoji, but both would have a bit of trouble with Kirishima. That poor boy. Kaminari needed his help more than he had realized. What is that? Did he seriously short-circuit himself? It looked as if he was so eager to impress everyone he just let it all out? At once? Yeah, Izuku needed to have a sit-down with him. Next team was Shota against Hagakure and Ojiro. Wait, was she naked? Glancing at the information he had on her hero costume, Izuku decided he needed to introduce her to Maijima-sensei. That was an unacceptable costume. Izuku sent the information to Maijima-sensei so he could look it over and brainstorm some ideas before Hagakure met him. Izuku briefly considered sending those 2 condolence flowers for their loss against Shota. Hitoshi and Uraraka against Bakugo and Ida. Well, Hitoshi had been wanting to beat the shit out of Bakugo ever since he heard about what he'd put Izuku through, and here was the perfect opportunity to do so. Instructor sanctioned at that. When Izuku had told his uncle the day before that Hito wasn't as badass as he was, he meant that Hito's ability to defend someone else wasn't as good as uncle's. His offensive abilities? Yeah, Bakugo was about to have a really bad time. Hitoshi was fast and said. Izuku could see the malicious glee on his face and decided that deserved a screenshot and to be the new background on his phone. Izuku watched as Hito and Uraraka entered the building and Bakugo ran to confront them, leaving Ida behind monologuing to himself like a villain. As soon as Bakugo came into view, Uraraka split from Hito and went for Ida, while Hito's grin turned into something dark. Izuku's breath caught at that look and another screenshot was taken. Hitoshi's beatdown of Bakugo was a graceful dance of kicks, punches, and capture scarf. It was over and done with, Bakugo tied up in the provided capture tape, in a mere 2 minutes, Hitoshi without so much as a scratch. If Izuku wasn't already in love with his best friend, he would be now. Uraraka had just barely gotten to Ida by the time Hito was done with his fight, and she wasn't doing too badly. With a quick dash towards her, Ida signed his own defeat. He got within slapping range. Hito, Shota, you were awesome out there. Aizu jumped on Hitoshi and Shota as soon as classes let out. A few of the other students were looking at them a bit oddly, but only Kaminari approached. Hey there, you're sensei's nephew, right? Kaminari asked nervously. Hitoshi had told him that Aizu wanted to talk to him about something, and with him being Aizawa's nephew, the boy was rightfully terrified. Aizu gasped in excitement. Okay, who brought me my new toy? His eyes lit up with glee and he grabbed Kaminari's arm. You have to let me pick you apart. I'll put you back together even better, I promise. Just let me at everything that makes you, well, you and you'll be one of the top hero students in the year. Aizu, you're scaring him, Hitoshi laughed. Sorry about him, Kaminari. This is Aizu's gremlin mode, and he gets like this sometimes. Just do what he says and you won't get too hurt. The confused boy said. What exactly are you wanting to do? Aizu nearly blinded them with his smile. Izuku was excited. Kaminari had given his approval to pick his quirk apart. So now Izuku had 2 people to pick apart and play with. Shota was going to be first. Izuku already knew all about the trauma that caused him to not want to deal with the fire side of his quirk, so that was going to be a lot easier to deal with. Plus, he had already laid the seeds of his manipulative plan into place. Izuku did have a fear of fire quirks at one time, but he's over that now. Uncle made sure he got therapy shortly after he was taken in, and Izuku took to therapy like a fish to water. It was a wonderful thing, and Izuku was so interested in it. He read up on it, and then asked Nedzu if there were any online classes he could take on the subject. So, Nedzu added psychology to his lesson plans. Aizu, I know you're excited about picking apart quirks, but you need to eat, Hito reminded him. They were at lunch on their third day of classes. Hito and Shota were talking about how the press was still at the gates when Hito had noticed that Izuku hadn't touched his food and was half streaming. Snapping back to himself, Izuku took his chopsticks and started eating. On his second bite, though, the level 3 alarms went off and the cafeteria burst into chaos. Izuku instantly dived into the stream and pulled up the footage from all the cameras at once. The PA system crackled to life and Izuku's voice rang out amongst the students. Students, it is just the press. Please calm down. There is no need to be alarmed. This is you. After all, aren't we supposed to be the best? Why are you trampling over each other? Hero students, if you see anyone injured, please assist them and escort them to the infirmary. All others, please make your way to your classrooms in an orderly fashion. Izuku didn't get up from his table, though, and neither did Shudo and Hitoshi. They knew that Izuku was vulnerable like this, and they were not going to let him be alone. Tiny green baby, it wasn't just the press, Nedzu. Attached. Unknown intruder in teacher lounge. Rakat, where are they now? Tiny green baby, I'm sending their location to Hound Dog, he's the closest. They took something off of All Might's desk, but it was a bad angle and I couldn't see what it was. Rat God, keep your eyes on them and let me know if something changes. Tiny green baby. Izuku followed them to a supply closet? Odd choice of location, but okay. Less than a minute later, Hound Dog opened the door to find it empty. Tell me about the break-in, Nedzu directed to Izuku after school was over. Izuku was in the staff meeting room with all of the other teachers going over the occurrence from lunch, and Izuku turned on the monitor in the room to show the events from how he viewed it. The press was eager to invade, as we all saw from this morning, but this person, the image on the camera zoomed in on a person in a black hoodie with light blue hair peeking out, seems to have some sort of a 5-point destructive quirk. Once the press left, I was able to zoom in on the remnants of the gate, and like I'm sure you and Uncle noticed, the gate was reduced to dust. At this the footage changed to Nedzu and Uncle examining the gate's remains. As soon as the alarm went off, I started searching each camera at once for someone who didn't belong. A brief image on the screen of all 572 cameras in the school was shown, making a few of the staff send side eyes at Izuku, and I was quickly able to locate the intruder. The camera for the lounge takes center stage. The person is the same as the one who disintegrated the gate, but I know that their quirk couldn't have gotten them all the way to the lounge in the time it took from destroying the gate to when I located them, so they must have another person helping them. After they took something off All Might's desk, they left the lounge and proceeded through a few hallways. And stopped at the supply closet. Sadly, there are no actual cameras in the closet, so I don't know what happened once inside, but I'm going to guess that whoever got them inside was able to get them out. Nedzu looked over all of the information that Izuku had. I only have one last question, but this is for All Might. Looking at the hero in his deflated form, Izuku already knew about this form, so he was assured he didn't need to keep appearances for him. Nedzu asked, "What was on your desk? And what is now missing?" "I don't know," he answered nervously. "It could be anything? It's just a mild sprain." Izuku complained. "I don't care," Uncle countered. "If you're clumsy enough to trip on nothing and hurt yourself, I'm not risking you coming today. Get back to your training, learn to at least not trip over your own feet, and then maybe next time you can come." Ugh. Izuku had tripped while on the way to the class, excited about the trip to the USJ, and he caught himself poorly, spraining his wrist. Granny Chio healed him, of course, but Uncle wasn't budging. He would have to watch the entire trip remotely. "But Uncle Shoyuda, if I stay here, you can't keep an eye on me." What if I hurt myself somehow here? Izuku gave his best puppy eyes to his uncle, hoping that would help. Papa can usually get his way when does that. You do have a decent point. Before Izuku could cheer, Uncle grabbed his arm and marched him to 1CS classroom. Opening the door, he said to Papa, "Mike, I need a babysitter. He's your problem until I get back." "Sure thing, Eraser. Come on in, little listener. Take a seat at the desk. We were about to start a lesson on verbs." Izuku glared between the two for a moment before sighing in defeat and went to the chair behind the teacher's desk and slumped forward, face planting directly onto the desk, and buried his head in his arms. Verb. A verb is a word that in syntax conveys an action, an occurrence, or a state of being. In the usual description of English, the basic form, with or without the particle to, is the infinitive. In many languages, verbs are inflected to encode tense, aspect, mood, and voice. Izuku's voice was just barely understandable. That's right, listener. But let's have the actual students take a crack at the lesson, you dig? Shota almost felt bad about leaving Izuku behind, but after yesterday's break-in, Shota wasn't taking any chances. No one knew what had been taken, and that idiot Yagi had already used up his 3 hours of time for the day. Izuku had made a comment while on the drive to school that All Might had been seen performing random acts of heroism all morning. It was as if he had forgotten what his schedule for the day was. And that had gotten Shota thinking, maybe that was what was taken? Yagi was forgetful enough to need his schedule written out, so if he didn't see that he had this trip to attend, he likely didn't realize doing hero work today was a bad idea. If some villain had the class schedule and knew they were going to be at the USJ, there was no way Shota was letting his nephew anywhere near there. He had honestly been looking for an excuse to make Izuku stay behind, and him spraining his wrist could not have come at a more convenient time. Was Shota overprotective of Izuku? Did he care? Not in the slightest. He had asked Izuku once if he minded that Shota was so protective, not really wanting him to feel as though Shota was smothering the teen, and was relieved when Izuku had said that he not only didn't mind, but that he liked it. He had gone so long being neglected and hated, that he truly felt loved when Shota showed he cared. Even if that did mean he got left out of trips to the USJ. Watching as the kids all gathered at the bus, he noticed that Kaminari and Todoroki were looking a little shell-shocked and kept glancing to a smug-looking Hitoshi. Suspicious. Just let me sleep. Have you already sunk your claws into Kaminari and Todoroki? Tiny green baby, if I say no, can I come to the USJ? Just let me sleep. Tiny green baby, I'm in an English class and I'm learning valuable information about verbs. I'm not allowed to be on my phone while in class. Just let me sleep. First, that's not your class. You are already fluent. Second, did you? Shota didn't get an answer, which for Izuku was as good as a confession. Looking back to the two boys, he couldn't help but grin into his capture scarf. He had read that the two had some issues with their quirks they needed to work on, and that gremlin of his enjoyed fixing people and their quirks. Looking at the class again, he was now thinking of who else he could hand over to his nephew. This would be fun. All right, everyone's here. Shota schooled his expression into his normal deadpan. Get on the bus. But sensei, Ashido called out, Izuku's not here. He's not coming. He sprained his wrist. He saw Hitoshi's worried look and quickly signed to him, he's fine, before he could panic. Shota wasn't the only protective one. Hey Shinso? Azui asked as they got off the bus at their stop. You've known Aizawa a while, right? And sensei? Yeah, I met Aizu in my first year of middle school, and since Aizawa's his uncle, I met him a few days after. Why? Well, I tend to speak my mind, and I've been wondering, what's his quirk? I've noticed him zoning out a few times, so I'm thinking it's a mental type. Close enough. I'm not going to tell you, though. That's his choice, Hitoshi shrugged. Fair enough, she said and walked off to rejoin Uraraka. Shudo glanced at Hitoshi. Do you even know what his quirk is? Hitoshi smirked. I know more than the rest of the class does, but no, he probably hasn't told me everything. I think you know more about it actually. Shudo hummed. Aizawa handed out comm units to everyone who didn't already have one built into their hero suits. while 13 gave their speech on the dangers of quirks and knowing how to regulate your own quirk for rescue. Once everyone had their comms on and connected, they all heard I's voice in their ears. "Hello 1A. It is I, your resident gremlin. Uncle wouldn't let me come in person, but I'm still here to observe. If you want any assistance in coordinating the mock rescues, just ask. You don't need to ask for assistance, but part of any good rescue is coordination." "Izuku's correct," 13 said. "Many of the rescues I have participated in were joint efforts with other heroes. Working together, and with a coordinator, makes the work go faster and smoother." Quietly, Hitoshi mumbled, "Would still be nice if you were here. How's your wrist?" "I'm fine," Izuku answered, just talking to Hitoshi. "Uncle seems nervous about the break-in yesterday. I knew he wasn't going to let me come today, so I may or may not have tripped on purpose to give him an excuse to make me stay behind. Didn't think I'd actually sprain my wrist, though." "I hope that's all it is, paranoia." Izuku still had his head down on Papa's desk in the 1C classroom while Papa was lecturing about verbs, clearly not paying attention. He was half paying attention to the trip to the USJ, and half watching Nezu lecture Yagi about using up all his time in the morning when he is a heroics teacher and should be at the school on time and ready to perform his duties as a teacher. Suddenly, there was static in his mind. That had never happened before. Izuku sat upright, eyes glazed over, still streaming, but now confused. The static was surrounding the USJ. "Uncle?" Hitoshi. When neither answered him, he went from confused to concerned. "Nezu, sorry to interrupt your scolding, but the USJ just went dark. I can't contact Uncle." Izuku hacked into the speaker for the room Nezu was in with Yagi. "Keep me posted," Nezu said. "Also, where are you now?" "I'm in 1C with Papa. I don't want to worry him yet, but he's looking at me as if he knows something's up and has his phone in hand. I don't want to cause a panic just yet, but if you haven't restored contact in." "I haven't gotten contact yet, but I have the cameras back. I'm sending everyone. There's an invasion. I see at least 70 villains," Izuku interrupted. "It's the villain from yesterday. Sound the alarm. We're on the way." Throughout all of UA, the level 3 alarm went off, sounding for an intruder. "Attention heroes of UA, the USJ is under attack. Students, remain in your classes. Student representatives are in charge. All heroes make your way to USJ." Izuku was still sifting through the static that was the USJ when he was able to break into the sound system. He couldn't hear, but he would be able to communicate with the students and heroes there. Soon after he had that, he was able to break into the rest of the audio. Cursing to himself, he put in a call to the emergency response team. "This is Datastream. The USJ is currently under attack. Heroes are en route to the location, but there will most likely be injuries. There are upwards of 70 villains on location." "Understood," came the reply of the dispatcher. "I will send out police and medics." "Thank you. I'll keep you updated if anything changes." With emergency services on the way, Izuku put all of his attention into getting through the last of the static so he could get back into the individual comm units. He could see his uncle in the middle of the group of villains kicking butt, but he could also see that the students had been spread out throughout the various disaster zones. Hitoshi and Azui were on the shipwreck zone, and Shota was in the landslide zone with Hagakure. Bakugu and Kirishima were in the ruins zone. Hitoshi and Azui seemed to be doing okay, and he didn't really have any worries about the other students. They were all doing alright, so he focused his attention more fully on the fight his uncle was in with the group of villains while he did his best to figure out who, why, and how he was locked out of the comms. A minute later he had managed to trace the disruption to one of the guys in the mountain zone, with Yaoyorozu, Jairu, and Kaminari. Izuku glared at the group of villains they were fighting, aware that the one he needed them to take down was invisible. "Don't do it," Izuku thought to himself as he saw what looked like Kaminari getting ready to do a mass electrical attack. "Sheet. Kaminari, don't you dare even do that," Izuku said over the USJ's PA system, startling everyone except for his uncle. Uncle had become used to hearing Izuku's voice come over his comm randomly to where he was no longer surprised to hear him in an emergency. "There is an electric shithead with your group, find another way to get him." After Izuku said that, The electric guy with the jamming quirk emerged, realizing his ambush was trashed, and between the 3 teens the group on the mountain zone were all taken care of. Thank F. The beach with the jamming quirk is down. Okay, Datastream is on your comms again. Everyone, get to the entrance, the heroes are on their way. Izuku switched over to just his uncle's comm. The beach with the hands has been staring at you, and it looks like they're counting. They've figured out your tell, try to throw him off by cutting out early. Also, this is the same sheet as yesterday, so watch his hands, do not let him touch you. Oh, is it the same guy? Uncle muttered sarcastically. I couldn't tell from how he looks like the same guy from the break-in footage. Yeah, I know, you pay attention to security briefings. I just wanted to make sure you knew the one villain that hasn't made a move to attack you yet was analyzing you. Izuku slightly pouted. Thanks, Zu. I got it from here. Be safe, uncle. Love you, Izuku whispered to his uncle. Love you too, Zu. He turned his attention briefly to the other emergency services to see far away they were and to see how much longer Uncle needed to hold out for backup to arrive. 5 minutes for backup, and 10 for medical. The guy with the hands made his move. Izuku could only watch in horror as Uncle's elbow was touched, just briefly, but enough to do some damage. Uncle managed to get away from him and turning his quirk on him, he got a solid kick into the guy, causing him to back off. By the way, Eraserhead, I never said I was the final boss, he said with a smirk. Nomu. The brain guy had Uncle pinned quickly and had broken both of his arms and was slamming his head into the ground. Izuku had to stall for time, or he was going to lose his uncle. Hey H&DB. Izuku yelled over the PA system. I heard you're here for All Might, right? He's not here. You, he shouted. This is the second time I'm hearing you. Where are you? Are you just playing the admin, hiding behind the scenes? Well yeah, I'm no hero. Izuku laughed. Like I'd be any use against someone who can disintegrate anyone with a touch? Beach please. I'm going to keep my happy but as far away from your nasty hands as I can. And your teleporter, I saw a metal armor brace thing in his neck area. I'd be willing to bet actual money that's where his weak spot is. And your brain F-dash? Yeah, that brain is like a bright, neon sign screaming, here's my weakness. So yeah, I'm the admin behind the scenes, giving information to whoever needs it. Where are you? Come out and face me, you cheating butt, the guy screamed. Ooh, yeah, I haven't been called that before. Izuku laughed sarcastically. Most of the time people go straight for cheating hacker, though. Nomo. Find the admin and kill him. Hey, so I didn't catch your name, H&DJB. Wanna share? Izuku said, grateful the Nomu had left his uncle and was now roaming the plaza looking for speakers to smash. The guy just growled at him. Oh, okay, no worries, I'll just do some of my cheating hacker things. And okay, Shigaraki Tamura. And warp job is called Kurogiri. Neat. How did you do that? Shigaraki screamed again. You shouldn't be able to do this. And yet, here I am, doing this. Oh, by the way, I have a little secret for you. Knowing full well that Shigaraki and Kurogiri were going to escape as soon as the other heroes got there, Izuku decided to try something new. He had been working on a method to put a trace on cell phones, sort of like a location tag that he could access whenever he wanted. He had tried it with Uncle and Papa to ensure he always knew where they were. So far, all he'd tried to do with that was use it as a location tag, but he was hoping he could also use that tag to access the signals around the tag. Okay, so my secret is in the form of a joke, you ready? Izuku could practically see the frustration steaming off Shigaraki, and it was beautiful. Okay, so, knock knock. Who's there? Shigaraki hissed. With a blast, the wall exploded, and the heroes arrived. The heroes are here. You're F-ed now, H&DB. Shigaraki screamed in rage. Hey, Snipe my man, the thing with the brain? Yeah. Its weakness is the brain. Please and thank you. Sure thing, Data, Snipe said as he shot the brain a few times, dropping it. Shigaraki and Kurogiri quickly made their escape. Papa was at Uncle's side seconds later. Izuku, now that the adrenaline of the attack had worn off, was numbly directing the police and medical units, keeping tabs on everyone's condition, even while having nearly all his focus on his uncle. Papa had joined the ambulance that had Uncle and was going with him to the hospital. Izuku would be able to catch a ride later. For now, he had to get this tag to Nedzu. Then he could go to his uncle. Izuku stood in his uncle's hospital room, looking at him asleep, covered in bandages, attached to all sorts of machines that were monitoring his vitals. He had come so close to losing him. The first person who had ever loved him. The first person who had ever cared about him. Izuku closed the distance. He wanted to hold his uncle's hand, but both of his hands were in casts, along with the rest of his arms. Izuku's tears were steadily falling. He wanted to hear his uncle's voice, he wanted to hear him say something sarcastic, or witty, scathing, he wanted to hear his uncle call him a brat, or a problem creep, or a gremlin, or any of the other fond names he uses. Instead, all he heard was the steady beeping of the heart monitor. He wanted to see his fond exasperation, the gentle smiles, the crazy grins, the protective glares. He wanted to see his uncle awake. Izuku was now sitting in the chair he had dragged over to his uncle's side, and pressed his face to his uncle's arm, soaking his hospital gown sleeve in tears. He knew he should probably be working with Nedzu right now to locate the hand guy, but he couldn't focus on anything right now, not when his uncle was right here, barely having managed to cling to life long enough for the medics to help. His heart had stopped 3 times in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. There was the possibility of permanent brain damage they couldn't verify until Uncle Shota woke up. Something the doctors weren't sure he'd be able to do again. There were probes attached to Uncle's head, monitoring his brain waves, and while it looked promising, they would need him to wake up before they could say he would be fine. They had said that if he was able to wake up, he would most likely be fine. If he woke up, Izuku had told Nedzu when he gave him the information on the tag that he wouldn't be any help until Uncle was awake. He couldn't bring himself to leave his uncle's side, even if he was physically there, he needed to be mentally there as well. He hoped Nedzu knew the encryption key. Izuku had forgotten to give that to him, so focused on Uncle Shota. He didn't want to miss it if Uncle Shota woke up. What if that was the only time he woke up? And Izuku wasn't there to see it? No, Izuku wasn't going anywhere until Uncle was okay. Papa had talked to the nurses and managed to convince them to let Izuku stay even after visiting hours were over, so Izuku didn't have to worry about getting kicked out. Now if only Papa could talk Uncle into waking up. "Hey there, my little baby," Papa whispered to him as he came back into the room. He had left just long enough to change out of his hero costume and grab Izuku a change of clothes. "How are you holding up?" "There's been no changes," Izuku replied. "Uncle still hasn't woken up." Izuku wasn't even bothering to hide the cracks in his voice. The tears that continued to fall. "Please, Uncle, I need you to wake up," he whispered brokenly. Papa dragged his own chair next to Izuku. "I know Sho's condition, baby, I'm asking about you. How are you holding up?" Papa placed his hand on Izuku's back and a kiss to his curls, knowing he wouldn't want to be pulled away from Uncle long enough for a proper hug. "I don't know," Izuku answered. "I just need Uncle. I'll be fine once Uncle wakes up." "Make Uncle wake up," he broke into heart-wrenching sobs again. Nedzu was both impressed and frustrated by the genius that was Aizawa Izuku. Impressed, because he had been given a location tag for the villains that had invaded the USJ, a location tag that would lead heroes to their doorstep, a location tag that was so heavily hidden and encrypted that he doubted anyone would be able to notice it if they hadn't been fully aware of its existence, let alone hack into it. Frustrated because it had been 27 hours since it was given to him, and Nedzu still couldn't break through the encryption. His student skills were outstanding, and one day he was sure he would surpass Nedzu himself, but he really needed that day to not be this day. Nedzu decided to take a small break and make himself some tea as he thought through his student's thought process. Maybe he was missing something? He needed to start over from the very beginning. Think, the pup doesn't want just anyone to be able to hack into his location tags. Nedzu thought back to when he first met the pup. It was about 6 years ago now. The boy was 9 years old. Nedzu had taken a habit of spending time on various online chess sites, hoping to find a mind that could challenge him, or perhaps a mind he could cultivate. He had noticed one user with the name, How Do I Chess, and decided to reach out to them. Perhaps this was a person who wanted to learn how to play chess? Or perhaps this was someone who wanted to lure their opponents into a false sense of security. If it was the former, Nezu would be more than happy to teach them. If it was the latter, Nezu would be more than happy to rip them apart in 3 moves. It turned out the kid really didn't know how to play but was interested. Nezu spent a few hours teaching him the basics, and after only 4 matches the kid was good enough to last nearly 15 minutes against him. He learned quickly. Nezu took the memory and put more focus on how the pup learned, not just how quickly. Was there a particular path he had used? There had to be a pattern of some kind to it. Nezu sat back at his computer with his fresh cup of tea and continued in his attempts to figure out his student's work. 29 hours, Nezu told the detective. It took me 29 hours to break his encryption. My student is incredible. Okay, so where does it lead us? Naomasa asked excitedly. They had been planning to raid the villain's hideout once they had heard that Datastream had managed to place a location tag on the villain. They needed more information, of course, but the location would be a good start. They are in the Kamino ward, located in a bar. Unfortunately, that is all the information I have for you. I have already tried hacking into the cameras in the area, however the ones surrounding the bar are all out of order, Nezu said disappointedly. Okay, then that will leave us with some good old-fashioned surveillance, Naomasa said. We have plenty of officers that specialize in surveillance, we'll get the information we need. It had been a few days, but Hisashi's tiny green baby had finally fallen asleep. Shota had been hospitalized on Thursday, and it was now Saturday morning. Izuka hadn't slept the entire time. It had been nearly 60 hours. Shota was going to kill him when he found out he let their baby do that to himself. Hisashi lightly tucked Izuku's green curls behind his ear. His baby was being so strong, and he was so impressed with how he had managed to keep himself pulled together while that creature was hurting Shota. His baby had talked smack to the villain, distracted him, gotten him to send his brain monster away from Shota. After the other heroes arrived, Izuku had been able to direct all emergency personnel, sort out which of the villains were injured and needed hospitalization, which could be immediately processed and sent to jail, provided a step-by-step walkthrough of the entire encounter, and even sorted through the footage of the attack for the police to review. All while his uncle Shota was fighting for his life, knowing full well that he had died in the ambulance 3 times and wasn't fully expected to make it to the hospital. He wasn't sure if he would have been able to keep his composure while the love of his life was being hurt like that. He hadn't kept his composure while in the ambulance with them. Hisashi had been ugly crying the whole time, keeping his hands clamped over his mouth to ensure his quirk didn't come out in the ambulance. Izuku was definitely his uncle's nephew. They were both so strong, logical, and passionate about the ones they loved, even if Sho almost never showed it. Hisashi had a theory it had to do with their brain mutations, but wasn't science-wise enough to try to follow that train of thought. I love you, both of you, he whispered to them. Sho, we need you to wake up. Zuzu, while he's doing his best to hold himself together, won't be able to stay in one piece much longer. Fisha, this kid loves you more than anything. Please wake up soon, kitten. Hisashi pressed a kiss to his husband's forehead. For him, and for me too. Naomasa was frustrated. There had been 0 movement in the surveillance of the bar. No one had come in or out, none of the lights had come on, the windows were all painted black with boards covering them, so there was no way to see in. The walls were even covered in lead, so they couldn't even try to use any infrared devices to see how many people were in there. They couldn't cut the power to the bar without tipping them off to their presence, either. I hate to say it, Officer Tamakawa-sansa said, but we need Datastream. There's no other way to find out who's in there, how many, anything. Naomasa knew he was right. No one else could manage to get the information they needed to plan this takedown, but he knew that the young Datastream wouldn't be able to assist them just yet. He had managed to do this much before he lost focus, and from what Nezu had said, the boy wouldn't be useful again until Eraserhead was awake. He's busy, Sansa, Naomasa replied. Doing what? Sansa was confused. Thinking about it, Naomasa wasn't sure if Sansa actually knew that Datastream was a 15-year-old kid, let alone that he was Eraser's nephew. His uncle is in the hospital, and no one knows when or if he'll wake up. Naomasa ran a hand through his hair in frustration. He'll help when his uncle wakes up. I know he will. Izuku was awake again, only having slept for about 5 hours. Uncle still hadn't woken up, but the machine monitoring his brain waves was showing more activity, so it was looking good that he'd be awake today. Papa was leaning against Izuku, with a hand in Uncle's hair, playing with the dark strands. Baby, are you hungry? You've barely eaten anything this whole time. I'll eat when Izuku started but was cut off. No, you'll eat when I get back with something. Papa pulled Izuku into a hug, a little forcefully since he was struggling a bit to stay pressed against Uncle's arm. You can't keep doing this to yourself, baby. I know you're worried about Shota, I am too, but when he wakes up, he's going to kill the both of us for acting like this. Izuku looked at the brainwave monitor. He's going to wake up soon, he whispered. He has to. You're right. Shota's the strongest person I know. He's going to pull through, and we'll be going home tomorrow. I'm sure of it. Papa stood up. I'm going to the cafeteria. I'll be back and I expect you to eat when I get back. Okay, Papa. Thank you, Zuzu. Papa left the room, and Izuku was left alone with his uncle again. Uncle, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think you're waking up, so you might? I want you to know that everyone's okay. All the students are okay. 13 got hurt a little, but not too bad. Izuku paused as he looked at the monitor again. There was a little more activity. He smiled slightly and continued, Papa has been trying to take care of me, but I'm not making his job very easy right now. I need you to be awake. Izuku heard Uncle's breathing pattern shift, just slightly, but enough. Uncle? Zu? Came the faintest whisper. Uncle? Hisashi returned to his husband's room to find a flurry of excitement, and for a moment nearly panicked, but quickly heard Izuku's happy exclamations. He knew that if Zuzu was happy, Shota was awake. Hisashi breathed a deep sigh of relief. They were going to be okay. Everything was going to be okay now.